A dark, ominous castle looms under a blood-red sky. Inside the throne room, a demon lord sits with a flaming weapon, readying his skeletal army. The blonde swordsman Seiya stands ready, his electrified sword glowing as he locks onto the enemy. Seiya strikes with blinding speed, his blade a blue blur as he closes in for the kill. He charges the massive, horned antagonist, carving through waves of skeletons to reach the boss. A surge of light erupts from Seiya as he hits his limit and initiates a transformation. His ally Kongu grins, his eyes glowing red with pure, unadulterated hype for the coming brawl. Kongu channels intense red energy into his fists, the ground shattering under his immense pressure. The duo launches a coordinated assault, their combined power creating a massive, fiery shockwave of destruction. The mage Sajiri weaves golden energy, unleashing a torrent of magical fire to incinerate the foes. The hooded antagonist stands amidst the inferno, mocking the party for their pathetic, weak-looking attempts. Elements collide as the party hides behind a crystalline ice shield to weather the boss's blast. Sajiri just laughs it off, unimpressed by the boss's inability to even leave a scorch mark. Seiya catches his breath, clearly banged up, as blue potions rain down to patch him up. Taru tosses the heals over, cheering the team on while Seiya thanks him for the save. The group regroups in the ruins, where Sajiri turns to Haruto to see if he is ready. Haruto grips his glowing blue sword, thanking the team before channeling his resolve for the finish. The demon lord recoils in genuine terror as Haruto surges with a blinding, overwhelming new power. Haruto lunges with his blade held high, delivering the final strike with absolute lethal precision. The hero stands mid-strike, his teal blade casting a brilliant final light across the dark chamber. Breaking news hits the wires, the S-rank guild Byakuren has officially taken down the Demon King. The world goes wild, with citizens everywhere celebrating the monumental victory of their S-rank heroes. It's been 200 years of gate hopping, but they finally checked off one of the 7. Back at HQ, the team reviews their target list, marking another demon lord with a big X. A live news report captures the hype, with crowds cheering the guild members in the background. The reporter introduces the legends themselves, Haruto and his crew waving to the adoring public. Cameras flash as the guild accepts the congratulations, the team playing the part of humble heroes. Haruto gives a speech crediting their success to global support while the team looks elite. When asked the secret to their insane strength, the group pauses, looking slightly caught off guard. Haruto just smiles and brushes it off, claiming their god-tier stats come from simple daily training. One of the team members scoffs at the lie, but Haruto just grins and shrugs it off. The conversation shifts to the grind, the members agreeing that the hero life is a drag. Haruto gets intense, insisting their grim, secret work is a necessary evil for the greater good. The scene cuts to a dark dungeon where 2 captives are chained up like absolute animals. One captive, Makoto, looks completely drained. Minori, the second captive, looks just as fragile and broken, staring into the dark, cold abyss. The guild enters the cell, Haruto making a twisted joke about monsters being rude to guests. Haruto looms over the prisoners, cruelly thanking them for being the living battery for their power. Without a hint of mercy, Haruto brings his blade down, the captives screaming in pure terror. A close-up shows the victim's face splattered with blood. A diagram explains the dark reality. Killing normal living things grants 0 experience for the guild. The system only rewards killing monsters, making standard life useless for their leveling grind. The only loophole is the Undying, allowing the guild to farm them for infinite exp rewards. The captive is restrained, enduring the torture as a glowing mark appears on their skull. The knight stands tall, his sword glowing as another system notification dings a level up. He smiles maniacally at the blade, laughing about how easy it is to farm the Undying. The prisoners look totally withered, their spirits crushed by the endless cycle of rhythmic slaughter. The witch in the muscular warrior pose, ready to dive back into the sick training session. The warrior delivers a brutal, glowing punch, blood spraying as he breaks the prisoner again. The witch strikes with a magical spear, pinning the defenseless captive to the dungeon floor. Swirling flames engulf the prisoner, their screams muffled by the intense, magical heat of the attack. The body chars to a skeleton, sparkling with golden particles as the system processes the kill. The dark-haired guy holds vials of poison, the knight grinning at the progress they have made. The prisoner is force-fed the purple liquid, blood leaking from their eyes in total agony. Combat blurs into a mess of violence as the system spams level-up messages for the knight. The screen is flooded with blue boxes, showing the rapid-fire progression of their twisted farming. The knight sheathes his sword, complaining that the training session was barely enough for today. He wants to get stronger, but Taru looks stressed, saying he can't gather enough poison data. The laptop user is struggling, his data collection falling behind the knight's insatiable need for power. The knight tells the prisoner to act normal, mocking her while he holds a green potion. He grabs her hair, calling her his doll and admitting he is bored with all their methods. The silver-haired guy stands back, bored out of his mind by the repetitive, dull torture routine. The captive kneels in the dim light, silent, tattered, and waiting for the next nightmare. She gasps in fear, sensing something truly twisted is about to happen to her this time. The silver-haired guy leans in, telling the others they have not tried one specific thing yet. He whispers one chilling word, pregnancy, the room falling dead silent at the implications. The captive's face twists in pure unadulterated dread, her mind reeling from the cruel suggestion. The others go manic, calling it a stroke of genius to try creating life for kicks. Haruto orders Sajiri to use hypnosis on his doll to make the process go smoother. Sajiri pulls out her staff, glowing with purple energy as she preps her lustful enchantment spell. A purple aura washes over the captive, her consciousness beginning to fade under the magical influence. Her eyes shift, small glowing pink hearts appearing, showing the spell has taken full control. She collapses, her mind spiraling as she desperately tries to hold onto her own thoughts. The night is all in, though Sajiri sighs, annoyed by the idiots she has to work with. They decide to unseal the male captive just to watch him suffer while they torment his sister. The guy in the cell gasps as the magical seal breaks, his hands shaking in realization. The female captive is trapped between the men in a hazy, red-lit room of horrors. She screams for them to stop, her red eyes filled with the terror of the situation. She scrambles across the floor, her body trembling as she tries to escape the sick game. The dark-haired captive reaches up, his expression one of pure, helpless misery in his enclosure. A holy lance pierces him, shreds his flesh, and leaves him bleeding out on the tiles. The antagonist looms over him, laughing at his hideous face while he writhes in pain. He explains how holy magic bypasses fire defenses, making sure the captive feels every second. The captive spits out a final curse, vowing that monsters like them will eventually fall. A blade slashes his throat, cutting his curse short as blood sprays across the dark room. The antagonist tells him to shut up, commanding him not to talk during the show. He tells the captive to curse his own undying body instead of blaming the people killing him. He walks away, telling Taro to pack up for an overseas media appearance the next day. They stop to feed Chimera-chan, the other guy calling the antagonist a freak for liking it. They head through a vault door, arguing about whether or not the monster is actually cute. They lock the iron door, deciding that's good enough to keep the prisoner contained for now. Inside the vault, the captive lies abandoned and weak, barely able to see through the pain. Minori suddenly appears, driving a glowing blade into his chest while looking down at him silently. He shrieks as the blade goes in, trembling in horror as he realizes what is happening. Minori sobs, uncontrollably driving the same blade into herself, the scene descending into total madness. The blade rips through flesh, and the antagonist narrates how disgustingly visceral the moment is. The captive moves in a blurred haze, feeling the absolute trauma of the bizarre, cruel event. Consumed by the horror and the pain, he cries out about how truly disgusting it all is. He screams internally, wishing he could erase every cell in his body to forget the nightmare. The woman is bleeding out, her body failing as she begs her brother for release. She's completely broken, whispering a final, desperate plea for him to end her misery. A dark figure looms over her, mocking her pain now that her regeneration is stalled. The Holy Lance is the only thing that can actually put her down for good. She begs him to cut her arm off, her voice cracking from the sheer exhaustion. Her hands shake as she grips the hilt of the weapon, eyes focused on death. A violent slash rings out, painting the floor in a fresh coat of blood. Even with powers, the pain is real and she cries, apologizing for failing the task. Since they can't die or pass out, this torture is just an endless, living nightmare. He tightens his grip on the golden hilt, steeling his heart for one last strike. With tears streaming down, she whispers one final apology before closing her eyes tight. He strikes, commanding her to stab his heart next so he can regenerate right back. The blade pierces his chest, blood spraying everywhere as the weapon finds its mark. It's a brutal hit, the holy blade glowing with intense light as it hits home. Golden light explodes, and a red system box pops up to confirm a level up. He stares at the notification, realizing this twisted cycle is actually making them stronger. They lock eyes, the air heavy as they acknowledge the dark road they're on now. She's surrounded by ghosts, realizing their path is not just about survival, it is about pure revenge. Her eyes burn with a lethal intensity, the red text spelling out their grim mission. He stands up, eyes glowing with a dark fire, fully committed to the bloody path. The siblings keep killing each other in this loop, farming levels like it's a glitch. It's a gruesome cycle, the man's face looking totally hollow as the system grinds XP. 2 panels, same result, just constant agonizing deaths to force their stats to skyrocket. The screen is a blur of blood and level up notifications as they break their limits. Multiple boxes stack up, turning this torture into a rapid-fire power leveling session. They stand together now, crackling with dark, red energy as their stats hit new peaks. Back to back in the dark, they've traded their humanity for the power to get revenge. Abtaru stands in the center, hands folded, looking like a quiet, harmless coward. He's the baggage carrier for the Byakuran Guild, keeping his head down and staying low. But anyone who actually looks into his eyes knows there is something deeply wrong here. A monster lies butchered on the floor, cut with the precision of a master surgeon. 3 years ago, he was already showing his true colors, dissecting monsters with manic glee. A silver-haired guy named Haruto watches, impressed by the kid's twisted work ethic. Haruto pushes him, asking if he wants to move on to better, more interesting specimens. They head deep into the guild, toward a room that basically nobody ever visits. Haruto gathers the guild members, dangling the promise of ultimate glory in front of them. He tells them it's their choice, but the path to power is a one-way ticket. The group listens, skeptical but intrigued by the promise of glory no human has reached. He warns them that the darkness they're walking into is a point of no return. He stares them down, waiting to see who's desperate enough to follow him into hell. The adventurers are all in, nodding along like they're ready for the big payout. Haruto thanks them, leading the crew to a hidden staircase buried under the guild. They head underground, realizing this place was once a prison for the guild's enemies. Tension fills the air as Haruto punches in a code, showing off his secret. The door swings open, revealing the siblings chained up, bloodied and battered for the group. Even his own people are shocked, realizing they've stumbled onto something truly messed up. These prisoners are not exactly human, which makes them the perfect subjects for this scheme. Haruto draws his sword, explaining they're the extinct undying tribe before slicing one open. The wound heals instantly, the flesh twisting and stitching itself back together in seconds. The group is stunned, wondering what this freak show has to do with their glory. The prisoner gets back up, radiating a sinister aura that keeps the adventurers on edge. Haruto pulls out his phone, showing off a level measurement app used for guild entry. He explains that by abusing this specific mechanic, they can bypass the usual level grind. The group loses their minds when they see his level is already sitting at 50. Usually, leveling up is a death trap requiring you to fight monsters head-on, but if you use these captives, the risk drops and the rewards skyrocket. You just keep stabbing and leveling, turning a living person into a literal XP bank. A guy in a green tracksuit walks up, licking his lips at the sight. He's obsessed, telling Haruto that this is the best experiment they've ever pulled off. He pins the captive to the wall, dying to see how the human body breaks. He stabs deep, asking how it feels to have his victim's insides torn to shreds. He's laughing like a maniac as his own level jumps up from the brutal torture. He keeps pushing, wondering if feeding the organs to bugs will keep them alive longer. The other guild members watch, calling them monsters but not exactly stopping the cruelty. They start rationalizing it, telling themselves it's fine since the victims are not technically human. The attacker is high on the power, loving how easy it is to farm levels. He's completely gone, gloating that having victims who just will not die makes things so convenient. Meanwhile, at the airport, things are moving along like a normal business day. The professionals are annoyed by the travel, wondering if Taro is still playing with dolls. The guy in the green tracksuit is sprinting toward a massive high-rise building. He's still cackling to himself, completely detached from reality as he hits the stairs. He busts through the door, yelling for his doll like he's coming home to a pet. Inside, the scene is chaotic, with someone else already stabbing the captive again. The victim screams in pure terror, completely caught off guard by the sudden violence. The attacker pins the victim down, knife raised, while the tracksuit guy watches. He screams for them to stop, terrified that they'll break his precious new toy. The muscular hero looms over the victim, warning him not to ruin their hard work. Both captives look like they've bulked up overnight, their physical stats clearly evolving rapidly. The system notes that killing a higher-level target yields a massive experience boost. They've been farming the captives, and now the stats are showing the result. The siblings are locked in a violent cycle, teaching each other and leveling up fast. Every strike is helping them evolve, their bodies changing under the pressure of the system. Blue energy swirls around them as they undergo a painful, forced evolution. The tracksuit guy backs away in total fear, realizing he's created a real monster. He tries to run for it, scrambling down the hall to escape his own creation. He grabs the cell bars, watching them walk past him, looking stronger than ever. He tries to act tough, telling them they are not leaving his hideout so easily. He slams his fist into the danger button, trying to trigger a trap. The Duke stands there, calm and stone-faced, ready to deal with whatever comes next. A massive flaming chimera appears, and he tells it to kill them both. Red lightning crackles around the siblings as they prepare to take their revenge. The chimera stands its ground, and the tracksuit guy thinks he still has control. Minori is shaking, but her brother tells her to relax and leave it to him. He keeps mocking them, screaming that they're two against one and have no chance to win. The brother stands cool, telling the chimera to chill because his food is regenerating. The beast's eyes glow, and he promises to keep it well fed with fresh kills. He's still gloating, telling them to just stay chained up and keep giving him XP. Then he stops, his eye twitching as the reality of the situation finally hits. He starts imagining sick things to do to Minori, his mind spiraling into depravity. He wonders what a hybrid would look like, leaving Minori trembling in total horror. A long-haired man pins a woman against the wall with some serious hostile energy. Red eyes flare as he drops a casual death threat, making things way more intense. The woman is terrified while a flaming beast laughs, calling the guy nothing but food. That flaming monster charges forward, tearing up the floor like a total wrecking ball. The guy fires off a massive blue magical blast, sending debris flying everywhere in seconds. He crouches low, staring up at a massive serpentine beast growling right in his face. He's genuinely caught off guard by the creature's sheer speed and raw, overwhelming power. Lunging in with a glowing blade, he tries to force his way through the chaos. The attack backfires, and he's left clutching a bleeding arm, clearly feeling the sting. A guy in a green tracksuit shows up, glitching with energy and demanding no escape. He's got an unhinged grin, holding two knives, and one is already soaked in fresh blood. Leveling up lets you snag new skills, but the results depend on your specific build. Abe Taro stands ready with his blades, facing down a monster that dwarfs him completely. He's got this rare warp portal skill, letting him assassinate targets from almost any angle. With stats that could crush the Demon King, he's basically an S-rank guild carry. The beast lunges with burning claws, and the guy just braces for a brutal impact. He gets caught in a nasty slash combo, leaving him bloodied and crying out loud. A thick snake-like tail whips around his ankle, locking him in place for the finish. He's hoisted into the air, dangling helplessly right above the beast's massive, gaping jaw. The monster delivers a burning claw strike, spraying blood across the room in a flash. The battle gets explosive as the beast roars, clashing with the dagger-wielding human fighter. The guy mocks the beast, calling it a weakling that's just there for extra XP. A girl with pink-tipped hair watches from the shadows, whispering for her brother's safety. A dark entity looms nearby, listening as the fighter realizes his current level is lacking. The fighter calls out to the beast, realizing he can't win with his current stats. That glowing yellow eye flares and the beast just gives a simple, brutal command, eat. The flaming monster lunges directly for the boy, closing the distance in a heartbeat. It bites deep into his shoulder, laughing while the kid cries out in sheer agony. Pinned and bleeding out, he's reminded that he can't outrun the beast's massive power. The beast turns its attention to the fallen girl, leaving the boy completely horrified. It impales her with a venomous spike, lifting her helpless body right off the ground. As she collapses, the boy screams, desperate to know what just happened to her. He looks at his own mangled body, realizing he doesn't even need to dodge anymore. His expression shifts from shock to cold rage as the gravity of her death hits. He goes berserk, stabbing the beast repeatedly and screaming for it to just die already. His face is splattered with blood, eyes completely dead as he snarls at the monster. The beast is confused, watching as the boy's hands drip with a strange green liquid. Suddenly, the beast panics, screaming as its own hand starts melting away into nothing. It collapses in pure agony, begging for relief while it burns from the inside out. Turns out his blood is now a lethal poison, turning his body into a weapon. The wounded creature gasps, shocked that the boy gained a non-native skill through sheer trauma. The boy stands there, realizing the poison came from the constant abuse he suffered earlier. The creature is still on the ground, gasping for air as the toxic burn continues. He drives his own blade into his wrist, letting the blood flow for his attack. Standing tall with his wound, he promises to return every ounce of poison back tenfold. His face contorts with such intense, raw aggression that it practically leaps off the page. He goes full anime protagonist, leaping into a crowd and wiping them out with energy. A survivor looks up in total terror as the dark silhouette looms over him now. The victim begs for mercy, asking why he's ruining the peaceful life they had built. The boy stares down coldly, asking if they ever showed him or his sister mercy. His fist glows with a menacing red aura, clearly ready to end this right now. He pummels the victim, demanding to know what they did to his sister Minori. The broken victim lies in a heap, whispering a pathetic plea for someone to help. He triggers his regeneration skill, his hands pulsing with that signature blue energy. The victim watches in horror as he heals himself, realizing there is no escape. His eyes burn red and he sneers that these injuries aren't enough to cool him. He asks how it feels to have his organs shredded now that the tables turned. Holding the bloody knife, he promises to show the guy exactly what karma feels like. The word karma glows in the dark and he commits to teaching them the meaning. Outside, a group returns, looking for Taru and planning a celebration for the Demon King. An adventurer walks down a dark corridor, calling out for Taru to get a move. Taru freezes in his tracks, staring at the bloody, mangled scene left on the floor. He gasps as the reality of the violence sets in, surrounded by pooling fresh blood. His face is a mask of pure, traumatized horror as he tries to process everything. A blood-soaked figure hangs in the dark, barely holding onto the last of their life. Taru stares at the scene in absolute despair while someone screams his name in panic. Kongu Chikara enters the frame, a massive martial artist covered in intimidating tribal tattoos. He's the strongest in Byakuren, an S-rank powerhouse with a reputation for being completely ruthless. He plays the part of the emotional comrade, but everyone knows it's all a facade. A flashback shows him crushing a monster with his foot, revealing his true malicious nature. New recruits watch him with stars in their eyes, wishing they could be that strong. A senior member laughs it off, saying some people are just born to be monsters. Kongu acts humble about his physique, even though he knows the truth about his power. He snaps at his followers to keep working hard, keeping his fake persona perfectly intact. As he walks away, the followers chatter about how he's already well past level 300. They're completely bought in, desperate to reach that kind of god-tier strength one day. Kongu lets his guard down just for a second, flashing a truly sinister, toothy grin. Back a year, he's training by literally stomping the life out of a defenseless victim. He grins while the victim begs him to stop, enjoying every second of the abuse. He levels up by killing a helpless monster, laughing at how easy this life is. He stands over a girl in a pool of blood, screaming as he continues attacking. He complains that leveling up is getting annoying now that he's reached such high stats. He kicks the body, annoyed that his victim isn't reacting or making any good sounds. He yells at the dazed girl, demanding she show some kind of life or reaction. Dark energy crackles around his fists as he decides to force a scream from her. He lands a heavy, glowing punch to her gut, making her cough up blood instantly. He keeps the assault going with a fiery blow, clearly hyped on the sheer violence. He counts the broken ribs like it's a chore, bragging about hitting the 200. He tells her to scream better, clearly looking for some kind of twisted musical performance. The girl lets out a long, broken, and agonizing scream that echoes through the room. He loves the sound, and now he wants to add more hits just for her sister. Those red eyes scan the shadows, waiting for someone to finally entertain him properly. In the present, a guy runs up to Chikara, yelling that things have gone south. Chikara's face hardens as he realizes Taru and the others are involved in the mess. Boots hit the stairs, signaling that someone has arrived at the scene of the crime. They open the door to find the girl hanging there, leaving everyone in total shock. The guys argue over where the siblings went, panicked that the situation is spiraling out. They worry that if the world finds out what they did, they're going to lose. In a dark room, a guy screams at a body, begging them to stay conscious. He stares at a glowing laptop screen, confused by what he's seeing on the display. A laptop screen glows in the dark, displaying a blue interface packed with folders. A violent video plays, showing a black-haired man stabbing someone suspended in the air. The party watches the clip in horror, with the red-haired guy swearing vengeance. Haruto stands over Taro's hanging body, his sword glowing with a cold, detached light. The three party members stare in absolute shock, one of them trying to speak. Haruto swings his blue blade in a wide, lethal arc, cutting through everything. Taro's body slumps over, leaving the group stunned by Haruto's sudden, brutal execution. The red-haired guy snaps, lunging at Haruto and demanding to know what he's doing. Haruto remains cold, claiming Taro was already dying and this just ends his suffering. The blonde knight sighs, reluctantly agreeing that Taro was beyond any real help. The group rationalizes the kill, acknowledging the severity of the torture Taro endured. The witch confirms that magic would have been useless to heal those kinds of wounds. The red-haired guy collapses, completely broken by the loss of his comrade. He slams a fist into the floor, cracking the stone in a fit of rage. Tears of fury stream down his face as he vows to hunt the killers down. A heavy, awkward silence hangs between Haruto and the blonde guy, Seiya. Haruto just mutters that the whole situation was useless, looking visibly disturbed. Seiya stares at him with genuine confusion and concern, sweat beading on his face. Haruto turns back with an unsettling smile, dismissing Seiya's worry like it's nothing. They agree to announce the hero's death and plan to hold a funeral soon. A pale-haired character stares ahead, shaken, while a command flashes to start the broadcast. A man and woman are sprinting through a dark forest, barely holding it together. The woman trips and the man panics, calling out to her in the dark. She says her legs are failing, so he tells her to just rest for now. They huddle under a tree, confirming they actually managed to escape the hellhole. Minori breaks down sobbing, overwhelmed by the relief of finally being free. The man comforts her, promising that this time he will keep her safe. She drifts off to sleep and he wonders if she's finally passed out. He looks at her and thinks it's no wonder, considering how exhausted she is. His guard goes up as he stares into the woods, wary of pursuers. He fights off his own heavy eyelids, struggling to stay awake and alert. He tries to resist the sleep but sees shadows moving through the trees. A sudden, sharp sense of danger hits him like a physical blow. He snaps to attention, realizing someone is definitely closing in on them. The air turns thick with malice, a swirling, oily pressure filling the woods. He decides that Minori is safest if he stays put for a second. Then he leaps from the tree, charging straight toward the source of the malice. He scans the darkness, his eyes sharp and focused for the coming fight. He spots a cabin glowing in the distance and wonders if that's the target. Perched on a branch, he realizes with dread that they might be too late. An attacker sneaks up and stabs the long-haired warrior, catching him by surprise. The warrior pulls a six-spin kick, forcing the attacker back into the trees. He lands, wincing from the wound, surrounded by three thugs in the dark. His eyes flare a menacing red, his face twisting into a mask of rage. He demands to know who these people are, glaring at them in the dark. The swordsman and the club wielder circle him, ready to finish the job. The swordsman checks if he's the target, noting the woman is not there yet. He talks about the 500 million bounty like it's easy money, eager to wrap up. The witch casts a strength enhancement spell, her staff glowing with golden light. An aura erupts around the attackers and the warrior watches, caught off guard. The big guy charges with his club, powered up by the magic. He lands a massive, glowing blow, sending kinetic energy slamming into the warrior. The attacker smirks, gloating that the hit was way too easy. The warrior grabs his head, trembling as an ominous energy ripples through him. The attackers back off in horror, realizing the guy should have been dead. He stands back up perfectly fine, an eerie aura rising around his frame. The screen goes blood red as he asks if they're just mindless subordinates. The swordsman hesitates, unsettled that the guy is not giving them a straight answer. The warrior launches a counterkick, calling them irrelevant to his mission. He connects with the big guy, sending him flying in total shock. He follows up with a brutal, glowing strike that tears right through the defense. A man watches in terror as the witch tries to hold her ground. The warrior stands over the fallen, radiating a terrifying, red-eyed menace. He declares that anyone with malice toward him is an enemy, period. Two more attackers lunge at him, setting up a desperate, high-speed brawl. A blade cuts into his arm, spraying blood, but he does not even flinch. The attacker looks at him, totally stunned that the guy is still moving. Despite the injury, the warrior maintains his terrifying, lethal speed. He lands a red energy-infused kick that hits like a truck. He follows it up with a crushing blow to an opponent's throat. His eyes glow with a cold, piercing light locked on the final target. The victim staggers back, confused and terrified by the raw power. With the others down, he turns his gaze toward the cowering witch. She's desperate, casting her final defensive technique, Purple Lightning. A magic circle erupts in the air, crackling with intense purple electricity. The warrior looks up, eyes widening as he realizes the sheer scale. The witch screams that no matter his speed, he cannot dodge this thunderstrike. He's caught right in the blast, the energy engulfing his entire silhouette. The witch keeps the pressure on, screaming at him to reveal his identity. A massive discharge of purple lightning fills the air, obliterating everything in sight. The guy walks calmly through a misty blue haze, focused and totally unfazed. The witch stumbles back, completely broken, crying out in pure distress. He stalks toward her, the low angle making him look like an absolute monster. His red eye glows in the dark as he tells her she is not escaping. He walks past the hanging bodies, finding some tactical gear that fits perfectly. He pulls up his hood, dryly remarking that he spared her life already. He walks past Minori, who is lying on the ground, still resting. She wakes up and whispers for her brother, and he apologizes for waking her. He asks where she got her clothes, and she says a kind person gave them. She smiles up at him, looking genuinely happy and content. He smiles back, pulling out some spare clothes for her to wear. He turns his back to give her some privacy, waiting for her to change. They stand together now, Minori looking much better in her new gear. He points the way forward, leading her deeper into the forest. Under the moonlight, they reach a cliff overlooking a massive mountain range. They head toward a waterfall, deciding to rest in the cave behind it. They sit by a small, glowing campfire, finding shelter from the dark. Minori stares at a food ration, excited to finally get something to eat. He watches her eat with a soft smile, happy to share the little they have. He holds a ration bar over the fire, the supply box sitting nearby. The attackers only had basic weapons and rations, leaving them with no useful intel. They need more info, so he decides to make a trip into town. He grabs his hood to stay low and plans to stock up on food. He tells his sister to lay low, and she agrees to play it safe. He navigates the neon-lit city, blending in with the late-night crowd like a ghost. The massive advertisements towering over the street are a total sensory overload for him. The gear he looted sold for way more than he ever expected to get. He fills his cart, making sure they'll be eating like kings for a while. Sitting on a bench with his haul, he starts plotting his next move. Abe was small fry, but the rest of those guys are absolute nightmare fuel. He needs to find their weak points before he can drag them to hell. He stays perched on the bench, keeping his head down among the bags. A blimp overhead ruins his night by broadcasting that Abe Taro is officially dead. The screen calls Abe a wise, beloved hero who was brutally tortured to death. The crowd is losing it, sobbing and cheering for Byakuran while calling for revenge. Then the screen flashes pictures of him and his sister as the killers. Watching from the shadows, he realizes why those guys were acting so weird. An S-rank hunter goes on camera, threatening to hunt them down anywhere they hide. The crowd is eating it up, promising to help track the pair down. The mob turns into a lynch party, screaming for blood while he watches quietly. He stands in the dark, realizing they're doubling down on their lies. On a monitor, a guy in white confirms he's ready to finish the job. He stares at the screen, his eyes crackling with raw, dangerous red energy. A few days later, the Kuryu siblings are still on the run. Inside, the heroes are losing their cool, clearly stressed out by the situation. A red-haired guy shakes a captive, furious that he can't get any useful intel. He figures since they leveled up, maybe they don't even need the info anymore. Seiya is panicking, worried their crimes will get exposed to the public. The guy in white steps in, explaining how they framed the siblings as monsters. A news feed shows their faces with a massive bounty, ensuring no one listens. The red-haired guy isn't satisfied, still fixated on what happened to their friend. He breaks down, sobbing about how they tortured their comrade to death. He swears he's going to catch them and make them suffer in absolute hell. The white-clad leader notes that Taro was just the weakest link in their group. That sets the red-haired guy off, and he lunges forward with a glowing fist. Purple chains slam into the ground, pinning him down before he can swing. The witch tells him the siblings are not a threat, but he refuses to listen. The leader tries to play peacemaker, telling them both to just chill out. The room is covered in bloody kanji for kill, a constant reminder of their goal. He smiles, confident that the siblings will walk right into their trap eventually. He points to the billboard, bragging that the whole world is hunting for them. They've got informants everywhere, so they'll know the second the pair is spotted. The red-haired guy is still shaking, clearly not as calm as he claims. The group tells him to focus, reminding him they still have demon lords to kill. They wrap up the meeting, telling everyone to get some rest for now. Left alone, the red-haired guy just sits there, obsessively muttering about his hatred. The dark, gritty background matches his spiraling mental state. Meanwhile, the siblings are safely hidden away at a quiet, glowing waterfall. He wakes her up with a smile, checking if she got some decent sleep. She's feeling great, saying the illusion magic kept the nightmares away. He tells her it's time to move before they get tracked down here. She's worried about the bounty, but he's got a plan ready. He pulls out 2 items to help them stay under the radar. He hands her a mask, explaining it hides their faces without blocking vision. He puts his on, and with those red eyes, he looks like a total pro. She tries hers on, feeling much better about their chances of survival. He's geared up and ready, but she asks where they're actually going. He tells her they're heading straight for a dungeon. They stand before a massive, pulsating stone gate, ready to enter. It's a completely different realm where the normal rules of reality do not apply. It's a restricted zone, completely off-limits to any normal human. He scouts the area, realizing the complex terrain makes it the perfect hideout. They're aiming for a poison swamp dungeon at the top of the mountain. It's a dangerous spot that most hunters avoid, so it's perfect for them. The portal is swirling with unstable, purple energy. They stare at the gate, bracing themselves for what's on the other side. He promises to stick by her side no matter what happens. Hand in hand, they step forward to take the plunge. The portal swallows them up in a blast of magical current. They land on the other side, immediately taking in the new environment. The whole place is a toxic wasteland under a creepy red sky. He keeps his guard up, knowing they're the only ones who can survive here. He warns her that if anyone has poison resistance, they're still in danger. A boot accidentally clips a thorny vine on the ground. The trap snaps instantly, firing a sharp seed pod that clips his head. He realizes the whole place is rigged with traps, so they need to be careful, she gasps, pointing at something moving in the distance behind them. He turns around just in time to hear a massive growl. He tenses up as a predator locks onto them. A giant multi-eyed wolf and a shadow beast loom over them. He steps in front of her, telling her he's got this handled. The shadow beast charges with a roar that shakes the swamp. He locks his gaze on the monster, eyes glowing with pure focus. He leaps into the air, channeling energy into his hand for a strike. He buries his fist into the creature, spraying black blood everywhere. He lands, feeling confident that his attack actually connected. Then the wolf strikes from behind, slicing him clean through the torso. She screams as he's left standing there, completely shredded. He's barely holding on, gasping in pain from the massive wound. The wolf towers over him, proving it's on a different tier of power. He realizes this thing is way stronger than anything they've fought before. She tries to cast a defensive spell to protect him. He looks down and sees his severed arm twitching on the ground. He realizes his body is moving on its own, like it's being enhanced. The arm is burning with internal flame, acting like it's possessed. His eyes shift, burning with a new, dark, and intense light. He stands back up, ready to trade blows with the beast. He catches the wolf's jaws with his bare hands, forcing them open. He uses his new strength to swing the massive wolf around. He lands a heavy hit that leaves the creature howling in agony. Our guy is glowing red with raw, violent energy, practically tearing the air apart. The kid's sister is worried, asking if the big brother is actually holding it together. He's drenched in sweat and exhausted, but he plays it cool, saying he's just tired. Staring at his flaming hand, he starts putting the pieces together about this new skill. It seems like the magic enhancement is the real trigger, and he's digging this power. A month later, some guys are getting cornered by a nasty blue wyvern in a cave. Our protagonist just lifts a massive boulder like it's a styrofoam prop, shocking the onlookers. He chucks that rock at the wyvern, causing a massive explosion of fire and debris. The beast goes flying, bleeding out, while another monster watches the carnage from below. With those tribal tattoos popping on his arm, he moves in for some close combat. He literally plunges his hand into the wyvern, tearing through flesh in a bloody mess. The monster is toast, and a nice little level-up notification pops up to reward him. The other guys are floored, knowing they couldn't pull off a takedown like that. Elsewhere, some hunters are sitting by a fire, impatiently tracking the missing siblings. They figure it's only a matter of time before someone cashes in on that bounty. One guy mentions a rumor about a mysterious masked man spotted by a friend. A shadowy figure in a mask with glowing red eyes starts creeping into the narrative. The story goes back a few days to a run-in at the Poison Swamp dungeon. The masked guy apparently tore through a massive purple snake with his bare hands. Everyone knows those snakes are rank monsters that can kill a mountain elephant instantly. The campfire crew agrees that only a real beast could solo something that dangerous. Kongu, the red-haired muscle, is not so sure, thinking there's always a bigger fish out there. He admits he's dying to meet this masked guy who crushes snakes with his hands. When asked for the timeline, he confirms it all went down 3 days ago. They realize the target might still be lurking in that restricted swamp area. Suddenly, Kongu snaps, landing a brutal, lightning-fast punch that turns a guy's face to pulp. He's showing off his own lethal force, absolutely wrecking his opponent without a second thought. He yells at his crew to move out because they are heading to the swamp now. That look on his face is pure sadistic anticipation for the fight to come. A voice from the darkness muses that a masked opponent sounds like a good time. A metallic clang echoes as the group arrives at the edge of the swamp. Under a creepy crimson moon, the environment feels like a total death trap. Minori is right there with her brother, sensing something is definitely wrong. The brother's eyes flare with that familiar red intensity, locking onto a threat. Perched in the trees, he knows he's caught someone else's magical signature. It's Kongu, the guy everyone's been gossiping about, looking for a fight. Minori realizes they're in deep trouble and starts to panic. Her brother tells her he has to go despite her begging him to stay. He gives her a reassuring pat, reminding her that they've leveled up since last time. He's locked in, ready to settle the score and finally get some revenge. He tells his sister not to sweat it, trying to keep her calm. He leans on his best trait, basically bragging that he's too stubborn to die. She knows he's serious, warning him that this new guy is a different beast. He fires up his strength enhancement, gold energy swirling around his body. With a leap, he's gone, leaving her behind under that blood-red sky. He's using his vision enhancement, scanning the area with glowing purple eyes. Kongu bursts through a portal, yelling that he's finally spotted his target. He's hoping the guy is deep enough in the dungeon to trap him there. The masked guy realizes he's been found and he's not happy about it. Spotting a pig monster, the masked guy pulls out a knife, planning something sneaky. He slices his own finger to get some blood for his next trick. He stabs the pig, triggering a burst of pink energy for his illusion skill. The pig gets hypnotized, seeing hallucinations thanks to the absorption of its cells. He commands the confused herd of pigs to charge right at the front. Kongu and his lackeys watch as the stampede rolls in, looking totally bored. The masked guy thinks this is just a quick warm-up before the main event. Kongu screams at his guys to stop shaking and get into the fight. They charge into the madness, hacking away at the wave of pigs. Kongu just stands there, acting like he's bored to tears by the lack of challenge. He kicks a pig aside, sneering, and tells his team to keep pushing forward. One of Kongu's guys is struggling, begging for a break, but Kongu is confused. Kongu snaps at him for being weak, but the guy is clearly not feeling right. The guy in the tank top starts choking, blood leaking from his eyes and mouth. Toxic green gas fills the air and everyone starts dropping like flies. Kongu stands in the mist, realizing his crew is going down for no reason. He covers his face, finally identifying the smell of poison in the air. He notes that even dead boars should not be gassing the place like this. He's genuinely stumped, wondering what kind of trap he just walked into. The masked guy moves in, closing the distance in the blink of an eye. A strike comes out of nowhere, catching Kongu completely off guard. Kongu recoils, finally getting a look at the mask he's been hunting. The masked figure lunges with a knife, calling him out for the rumors. Kongu catches the wrist mid-strike, blood spraying as they lock into a struggle. He's got a tight grip, but the masked guy is not backing down either. Kongu just grins, loving that he finally found someone worth fighting. He winds up a punch ready to put the masked guy in the dirt. The masked guy braces for the impact, his red eyes burning with focus. Kongu is impressed by the speed and endurance of this mysterious fighter. He admits this guy is actually as strong as the rumors suggested. The masked guy stares back, looking a bit winded but staying ready. Kongu breaks into a manic smile, shouting that he actually likes this guy. The masked figure is confused, wondering what kind of psycho he's dealing with. Kongu rants about how he loves the strong but finds the weak disgusting. Looking at the corpses, he says these guys just did not have what it takes. He holds out his hand, offering the masked guy a spot on his team. He asks the guy if he wants to be his new companion. He promises him wealth, women, and total status if he joins under his banner. He's obsessed, practically demanding the guy take the deal because it is so good. The masked guy stays silent, just narrowing his eyes as he processes the pitch. Kongu steps on a fallen guy, reiterating that he absolutely hates the weak. He complains that these guys were a waste of his time and effort. He kicks the defenseless body, visibly irritated by the whole situation. The masked guy thinks he should have just treated these losers like punching bags. Kongu launches another savage strike, showing off his brutal, overwhelming physical dominance. Kongu drops to one knee and the masked guy asks why he's so cruel. Kongu gets a manic, unhinged look in his eyes and says it's for fun. The masked guy is genuinely unsettled by that twisted answer. Kongu laughs, remembering how the weaklings always beg for mercy in the end. He mocks their pathetic apologies and pleas for help like it is a joke. He loses it, laughing maniacally while reveling in the fear he's created. The muscle-bound redhead stands over his fallen prey like he just won a title fight. He is having the time of his life, laughing like a total maniac about the violence. Out of nowhere, the cloaked guy clocks him with a clean, high-energy strike to the face. The redhead just smiles through the pain, saying men are meant to trade blows like this. He starts winding up his tattooed arm, ready to turn the volume up on this fight. They go blow for blow, turning the area into a frenzy of pure kinetic energy. It is a total high-octane scramble, with the redhead lunging while the other guy blocks. The redhead taunts his opponent, admitting he is actually pretty strong for a punching bag. The cloaked fighter realizes he is dealing with a literal monster of a human being. The redhead shifts gears, his expression turning into pure, unadulterated aggression for the next hit. He screams out his technique, crushing blow punch, and goes for the finish. The hit connects, erupting in a massive shockwave of red light and raw power. The force drags the cloaked guy backward, carving a long trench through the dirt. He gets launched into the distance, barely holding on after taking that kind of heat. Crouching in the dirt, he realizes he has never felt anything hit this hard before. The redhead strolls through the smoke, surprised his opponent is still breathing after that. He casually mentions he was only using 30% of his power just now. The cloaked guy clutches his knife, absolutely stunned that was only a fraction of his strength. The redhead mockingly encourages him to use that blade, eager to show off his dominance. He stands in a literal ring of fire, daring his opponent to keep this dance going. The fighter lunges in with a desperate strike, trying to prove he is not done yet. The redhead just stands there, bathed in a golden aura, looking down with pure smugness. The blade barely scratches him, and he mocks the guy for not keeping his gear sharp. He basically tells him that his pathetic blade will never even draw blood at this rate. Wrapped in flames, he tells the guy it is time to accept the massive power gap. He blocks another move, shocked that this guy is still acting so defiant against him. A boot slams into the ground, kicking up a cloud of toxic, greenish swamp gas. The redhead loves the resistance, laughing as he winds up for a massive flying kick. The kick lands flush, and the hooded fighter gasps as the impact hits home. He goes flying into the swampy mess, causing an explosion of green energy on impact. The redhead sighs, annoyed that he let his excitement get the better of his aim. He starts walking away, disappointed that the fight ended before his expectations were met. He stops dead in his tracks, feeling a sharp knife bury itself into his shoulder. Panic sets in as he realizes he has been tagged with some kind of nasty poison. He stares at the hooded guy, confused how he is still alive after that swamp bath. He starts wondering if he is even looking at a human being anymore. A heavy, intense yellow aura flares up as the redhead gets serious about this kill. He looms over his target, his fist glowing with enough energy to level the place. He goes for a grab, but the hooded fighter is scrambling to get out of range. He winds up for one final, devastating punch, his face twisted in pure combat rage. He slams his fist into the dirt, detonating an orange shockwave that rocks everything. The ground just shatters, sending debris and light flying in every single direction. Makoto braces himself in the chaos, his eyes narrowed and locked on the target. The dust clears to reveal a massive crater and Makoto being forced into the air. A piece of the mask breaks off, finally showing the damage from the intense fight. The redhead loses it, laughing like a maniac because he finally knows who this is. He stares down the masked guy, screaming that he has finally tracked him down. Makoto just stares back, cold as ice, saying he has been looking for him too. The redhead realizes Makoto has been using regeneration to tank his hits all along. He points his finger, screaming that this is for the death of his friend Taro. He flexes his muscles, making it clear there is zero chance for any kind of truce. His eyes are glowing with intent as he growls that he's going to finish this. Makoto stands in the green aura, asking if a simple death is really the goal. He whispers back that he is planning on doing way more than just killing him. They square off, the whole battlefield glowing with the intensity of their upcoming clash. The redhead charges in, leaving a trail of orange flames in his wake. He leaps high into the air, screaming out as he descends for a brutal strike. Makoto gasps as his own forearm gets severed, blood spraying everywhere in the process. He stands there clutching the stump, watching a pillar of red energy rise up behind him. The redhead finishes the kick, surrounded by golden light and a wall of smoke. He jumps down for another hit, but Makoto manages to dodge it just in time. The landing point explodes in a blinding blast of pure destructive energy. He lands in a low, predatory stance, showing off his tattoos and ready to pounce. The redhead tracks his opponent's movement as Makoto weaves through the flying dust. Makoto suddenly closes the gap and smacks the redhead right in the face. The guy just smirks, completely unfazed by the hit, and asks if that is all he has. He clenches his fist, ready to teach his opponent how a real punch feels. He delivers a flaming strike, his eyes locked on the target with lethal precision. The hit connects with a massive shockwave, sending blood flying from the impact. Makoto collapses, broken and bloody, as the redhead stands over him gloating. The redhead pauses, looking down with a confused expression as something feels off. He stares at the guy, completely unsettled by what he is seeing right now. Makoto is trembling on the ground, and the redhead mocks him for shaking in fear. He erupts into manic laughter, pointing at his broken opponent and jeering at him. He looms over him, saying that the trauma of the past is literally etched into his body. Makoto tries to drag himself away, leaving a trail of blood across the floor. A dark psychological shadow manifests behind Makoto, representing the trauma he is feeling. The redhead walks slowly, taunting him about the old days and the torture they endured. Makoto wheezes, gasping for air as he desperately crawls away from the monster. Just as the redhead smirks, Makoto lunges from above in one last-ditch effort. Makoto's eyes glow red with crackling energy, focusing everything on this one desperate move. In the burning ruins, he tries to reach out with a spectral, fiery hand. The redhead takes a hit, bleeding but raging as he screams for the guy to move. Makoto stops, realizing he might have just walked into some kind of twisted trap. The redhead looms over him, mocking him for thinking that move would actually work. He lands a massive kick, causing an explosion of light that sends Makoto flying. The impact is brutal, and Makoto cries out as he gets launched backward. The redhead stands over him, demanding to know how he got so strong so fast. Makoto is pinned to the ground, gasping for air while the redhead presses his foot down. The guy threatens to keep beating him until he finally gets an answer. He poses, realizing if the guy is here, his sister must be close by too. A close-up shows Makoto's eye filled with a mix of pure horror and blind rage. The redhead leers, saying he's going to go after the sister once he is done. He looks at the fallen woman nearby, excited to see if she is as much fun. Makoto's face is shadowed, his eyes glowing malevolently as he begins to lose control. The redhead stands in a swirling red aura, pumped up for another round of combat. He towers over the youth, who is lying in a pool of his own blood. He looks annoyed, muttering that he needs to bind the guy before he heals up again. He stares down at the bloody mess, surveying the carnage he just created. He suddenly looks back in alarm as Makoto floats up, engulfed in a dark, surging aura. Makoto stands in a desolate red wasteland, his dark energy flaring against his opponent's shadow. The red-haired fighter taunts him, noting the regeneration is even faster than it was before. The air distorts around them as Makoto's dark aura spikes, pushing the tension to the edge. The redhead watches in surprise as Makoto drops into a defensive crouch, ready for anything. They collide with an explosive force, their fists locking in a blinding, light-filled flash. Makoto braces for the recoil while the redhead sneers, commenting on his sudden increase in speed. The redhead swings a massive, glowing punch, boasting that raw power makes defense totally meaningless. He follows up with a flaming blow, mocking Makoto for failing to keep his regeneration up. They trade quick strikes, but Makoto is already calculating how long that weak guard will hold. Makoto lunges with a sweeping dark slash, catching the fighter off guard with a painful hit. The momentum shifts, leaving the fighter kneeling on the ground, his arm severed and bleeding out. The redhead mocks the incompetence of just spamming regeneration, but his confidence is clearly starting to crack. Makoto flashes a sinister, hidden smirk that catches the fighter completely off guard. The fighter demands to know why he is grinning, and Makoto just hits him with a retort. He calls the guy a brainless idiot, leaving his opponent stumbling and genuinely confused. Makoto capitalizes on the shock, leaving the fighter to stare at his own severed limbs scattered. With his eyes glowing crimson, Makoto lets out a feral, commanding shout to move in. He slams a piercing strike into the fighter's chest, sending a massive shockwave of red energy. The fighter grunts, trying to endure the onslaught, but he is clearly out of his depth. Staggering back, the redhead is forced into a desperate block against Makoto's relentless, glowing heavy strikes. The warrior is shaking, reeling from the realization that Makoto's power is now overwhelming him. He looks at his trembling hand, realizing that the fear he felt is now rising from within. Makoto is completely consumed by dark crimson energy, fueled by pure unadulterated hatred. He unleashes a devastating blast that tears through the landscape, leaving nothing but absolute destruction. Kongu screams in agony, missing an arm while Makoto looms over him in cold, dark silence. Makoto keeps the pressure on, calmly challenging a broken Kongu to a pure contest of strength. Kongu's face twists into a mask of feral rage, his eyes glowing as he tries to brace. He screams in defiance, vowing to turn Makoto into a punching bag with his remaining power. Lunging forward with a massive golden red fist, Kongu promises to smash him into total oblivion. Makoto remains stoic and cold, issuing one single, chilling command for the energy to gather. Dark tendrils surge forward, violently crushing Kongu's glowing aura into nothingness. The sheer pressure is too much, and the sound of snapping bones echoes through the air. Makoto delivers a brutal, energy-infused punch that completely obliterates the space in front of him. The blow connects with devastating force, leaving Kongu screaming as he is consumed by dark light. As the explosion fades, Makoto looms over the ruins, asking how it feels to finally lose. Kongu kneels in the wreckage, gasping about the pain and fear he just experienced firsthand. Makoto stares down at him, promising to engrave that feeling of total defeat deep inside. A week later, the scene shifts to a peaceful modern city skyline under bright blue skies. Two men walk through a sterile corridor discussing the upcoming battle against the Demon King. One guy is super enthusiastic about working for Taro while the other stays perfectly calm. Kira stands in the shadows, momentarily confused about who this Taro character even is. The blonde guy in armor just sighs at the lack of focus. Kira recovers quickly, playing it off like he totally knew who he was talking about. He laughs it off, claiming he was just pulling a prank. The blonde guy is visibly unsettled, telling him not to joke about stuff like that. Kira changes the subject, asking where Chikara went, and learns he is hunting those siblings. Kira smiles, calling the siblings good punching bags, which gets a reluctant nod of agreement. He reassures Seiya that Chikara will definitely bring them back, and Seiya tries to agree. Seiya is clearly uneasy, promising to train the siblings to death once they finally return. Someone in dress pants sprints down the hallway, clearly in a major hurry. A suit-clad guy rushes up, completely flustered, to report some urgent bad news. He is shaking, struggling to explain that a package just arrived and it is bad. Seiya gasps in sudden, sharp pain as if he has been physically struck. A witch with a large hat strolls in, annoyed, asking what is going on here. She points to the box, and the mood in the room immediately turns icy. Seiya stares at the box, his eyes going wide with pure shock. Inside the package is a severed arm with a tattoo confirming it belongs to Chikara. The group stands frozen, watching as dark magical energy leaks from the open box. The witch starts chanting, surrounding the box with purple seals to analyze the contents. She confirms the limb is real, and Seiya loses it, punching the table in frustration. The witch looks thoughtful, wondering who could have possibly taken down someone like Chikara. The guy in blue notes that sending the limbs back is a clear act of vengeance. Kira realizes that since Chikara was hunting the siblings, they have to be the culprits. The blonde guy is in denial, refusing to believe the siblings could beat a powerhouse. They argue that even if Taro was weak, Chikara was supposed to be a top-tier hunter. The reality hits. The siblings have clearly gotten way stronger than anyone anticipated. Seiya is still panicking, insisting it is impossible to level up that fast. Kira asks how they got so strong in the first place, pointing to their own methods. They reflect on how they constantly killed each other over and over to grind levels. The witch explains that killing high-level enemies grants huge experience, making the power jump possible. They realize the siblings must have been farming each other to reach this level of strength. The guy in blue stares at the severed arm, realizing they are now the hunted. Everyone looks completely horrified by the implications of what they are facing. The witch tries to get everyone to calm down and regain their composure. Seiya is clutching his head, sweating, trying to figure out their next move. The witch casts a stabilization spell on Seiya to help him stop panicking. Seiya heads for the door, thankful for the help while trying to clear his head. The guy in blue asks the witch for some space to think things over. He watches her walk away, left alone to process the mess they are in. He paces away, his mind clearly racing with the threat of the siblings. The guy in blue holds the severed arm with utter disdain, unimpressed by the intimidation attempt. He kicks the limb away, thinking the siblings are delusional if they think this works. He tosses the limb in the trash, but he is still unsettled by Chikara's defeat. He spots an eyeball on the floor and raises his boot to finish it off. He crushes the eye, triggering a violent burst of red energy, swearing at the siblings. Dark red electricity crackles through the room as the magical trap is finally triggered. A cloaked figure senses the destruction from afar, realizing their little tracking eye was crushed. They stand on a rooftop, worried about Minori and deciding it is time to head back. The figure reflects on how they needed an excuse to shop for better food supplies. They check their clothes, hoping the shape memory magic they added will keep them in good shape. They pack a stuffed animal for Minori, making sure to bring a souvenir home. Under the full moon, the figure leaps across the skyline, moving with ease. Some thugs in an alley spot them, wondering if they are looking at another hunter. The figure keeps leaping between buildings, spotting a chase happening down below. A woman in a black hood is sprinting through the dark, trying to escape. The figure watches from above, noting that this area is under the enemy's control. They decide it is not worth getting involved, but the woman gets cornered below. The woman stands her ground, cornered in a hallway while the thugs close in. As the thugs pull out a knife, the cloaked figure drops down from the shadows. Revealed, the figure looms over the thugs, stating they simply cannot ignore bullies like these. The masked guy is totally blindsided by a sudden, heavy-hitting counterattack from the shadows. One punch sends him flying, his face getting absolutely wrecked by the sheer kinetic force. He gets finished off with a brutal kick while his buddy watches, completely paralyzed. The cloaked figure looms over the unconscious guy and gestures toward a seal on the wall. Our mysterious rescuer, a dark-haired girl, looks off to the side with some serious anticipation. The masked fighter from earlier is staring at her, looking completely rattled by her presence. Deep in the moonlit woods, she stands on a branch, waiting for her big brother's return. She spots a familiar face through the trees and calls out to him in relief. The guy drops in with a blue aura, but he looks confused by her sudden cheer. He brushes past her, and she can tell right away that something is seriously off. She freezes up when she notices what he is actually carrying on his back. He's startled by her reaction, clutching the heavy bundle like it's a ticking time bomb. He calls her Minori and tells her to look closely at the person he brought along. Minori stares at the bundle, her shock hitting a breaking point as the truth settles in. She points at the person in disbelief, realizing it is literally a clone of herself. Meet the cast of the Byakuran Guild, featuring the self-proclaimed hero Ishiki Seiya. Seiya is the S-rank golden boy with the strongest sword skills in the entire organization. He plays the part of the charming hero perfectly, surrounded by a crowd of admirers. He's the group's mood maker, but there's a side to him nobody else really knows. Behind closed doors, Seiya is a total hedonist, spending his nights at wild pool parties. It is pure decadence, with wine flowing and women hanging off him at every turn. The vibe shifts instantly when he cold-cocks one of them, blood spraying everywhere. He does not even flinch, proving he's a total psychopath hiding behind a hero's mask. He's back in armor now, looming over a chained Minori clone, clearly enjoying the power trip. He licks his lips, savoring the fact that he can break her without any consequences. He slashes his blade, forcing another agonizing scream out of his helpless captive. He finds the suffering beautiful, openly admitting that tormenting women is his favorite hobby. A witness is watching from the sidelines, horrified that he keeps targeting Minori clones. He does not care, striking her again just to see the look of pain on her face. He tells her to quiet down, complaining that men are not nearly as fun to torture. It is a sick, twisted world where he treats women like disposable toys for his ego. He forces her to look at him, demanding she scream louder for his own sick entertainment. The poor girl lets out a raw, desperate cry that echoes through the entire room. Meanwhile, another blonde guy is whistling, wandering through a sterile, high-tech facility. He spots Seiya and some other guy lurking near a restricted area marked as dangerous. That room is strictly off-limits to everyone except Haruto, making this a huge red flag. He watches from the shadows as the pair slips inside, curiosity getting the better of him. He catches Seiya red-handed and calls him out for snooping where he does not belong. Seiya just laughs it off, claiming he was just curious about what they were hiding. Seiya casually offers to show him the goods since he's planning to trash them anyway. The three of them stand at the threshold, with a newcomer looking on in total horror. Inside, they walk past rows of green tanks, and the newcomer is clearly losing his mind. It's an entire factory of Minori clones, all floating in tanks like lab experiments. The guy is stunned, but the others confirm it's just mass-produced fodder for leveling up. They're using Seiya's power and some tech to farm experience points more efficiently. It's a joint project between Byakuran and Taro, but things clearly did not go to plan. The observer is shaking, staring at the pods in pure, unadulterated fear. The clones have broken regeneration and do not even drop XP, making them totally useless. They're just failed experiments, so the plan is to clean house and dump the bodies. The newcomer asks if they're really tossing them, and the guy says they're already trash. He says he'll use them one last time before discarding them since they are not the real deal. The newcomer sees an opening here, his expression shifting from horror to something predatory. He turns around with a manic grin and demands they hand over the defective clones. They're confused why he'd want trash, noting the clones have no soul or emotion. They're just programmed dolls, but that seems to be exactly what he's looking for. His eyes widen and he smiles like he's just found the ultimate prize. He tells Taro that he just does not get it, clearly operating on a different wavelength. He touches the glass, obsessed with the idea of having a version of her to control. His thoughts are a laundry list of dark impulses, from loving her to tearing her down. He's completely lost in the fantasy, ready to claim ownership over every single clone. He looks straight at us with a crazed grin, claiming them all as his personal property. He calls his obsession a dependence, justifying his need to dominate these dolls. A new guy with purple hair shows up and calls Seiya out for being total scum. We cut back to the real Minori, who is visibly shaken and in a lot of pain. She's huddled with her brother in a dark cave, both of them looking completely drained. They're trapped in a vortex, and her brother tries to keep her calm as she struggles. She thanks him, still trembling, clearly traumatized by everything she's had to endure. They discuss the clones going to Ishiki, and Minori is disturbed by the implications. Seiya is out there with a dozen of them, acting like a king with his personal guard. The brother asks why Minori has feelings if the clones are supposed to be emotionless. She does not have an answer, but she knows she's different from the others in the tanks. She remembers seeing herself on TV, which triggered some kind of internal awakening. Something sparked inside her, giving her a sense of self-awareness she was not supposed to have. That warmth turned into a burning hatred for Seiya, which gave her the drive to escape. Now she's begging her brother to help her save the others still stuck in that mansion. Her brother thinks they can use the clone's hidden emotions to catch Seiya off guard. Minori is shocked, not sure if she's comfortable using her own sisters as bait. The brother argues that Seiya's arrogance is their biggest advantage in this fight. He wants to use them to take Seiya down, but Minori worries about their safety. She knows the worst-case scenario is death, and the weight of that hits her hard. She grabs her brother's collar, screaming that she will not let him treat them like weapons. She pleads with him, saying these girls never asked to be born into this misery. He's torn between his mission and his conscience, struggling to find the right call. She hugs another girl, insisting that these clones are her sisters, not just objects. He shouts that if his sisters are in danger, saving them is the only priority. She switches gears, realizing that using the clones is their best shot at revenge. The brother looks at his own glowing aura, questioning if he's becoming the villain. He realizes that by sacrificing others for his goals, he's no better than the guys they're hunting. Minori softens up, promising that she's going to save them no matter what it takes. Her rage takes over, and she swears she'll kill Seiya with her own two hands. The brother goes quiet, the heavy silence hanging between them like a physical weight. He finally nods, deciding that they're going to rescue every single one of them. He apologizes for scaring her, and they reaffirm their pact to finish this mission. Minori wipes away a tear, relief washing over her as she accepts his promise. They dive into a blue portal together, ready to storm the gates of the mansion. They arrive at the dark mansion, completely winded, ready to start the final showdown. Inside, Seiya is losing it, whipping the air and demanding to know how one escaped. He's pacing the hallway, furious that nobody managed to keep the clone in check. He screams at his guards to find her, his composure completely shattered by the breach. He stands at the end of the hall, staring down our heroes as the fight begins. A city skyline under a full moon featuring a giant neon rabbit sign. A hooded figure is sprinting through blue-tinted alleys, chased by a squad of maids. A maid with red-highlighted hair closes the distance, the pressure mounting. The runner trips hard against a crate, completely winded from the pursuit. Cornered and collapsing, the hooded figure is quickly surrounded by the maid squad. A close-up reveals an X mark on the captive's cheek, red eyes wide as they declare success. The lead maid calls it in on her phone, confirming the target is secured. Two figures watch from a ledge, one bearing that same X mark on their face. The red-haired guy notes the maids followed them, and his partner confirms it. They agree Minori is strong enough to survive this, so there is no panic. They dive from the ledge, heading straight for the mansion to start the rescue. A massive mansion looms in the distance under a cold, blue moonlight. Standing outside, the guy realizes just how huge the place actually is. The X-marked partner asks about a red pen mark on their own cheek. The guy holds up a scrap of paper, claiming it acts as an ear. The partner is confused by the explanation, mirror and pen in hand. He explains that body manipulation lets them hear what's inside the mansion walls. With a head pat and a promise to show up if things go south, they're ready. He takes a breath, whispering to himself that he's counting on Minori now. Minori and two other maids stand before the grand double doors, preparing to knock. The master is livid, screaming at the maids for letting their captive escape. A close-up shows his face twisted in pure unadulterated rage. A maid explains she was just tracking a suspicious shadow outside. She claims the threat is already handled, so he has nothing to worry about. The master threatens to dispose of her if she ever acts alone again. He suddenly stops, noticing something unexpected that catches his attention. He tells the maids to finish the job before he finishes a remote meeting. The maids acknowledge the order with cold, machine-like obedience. A red line of energy tracks the maids as they head down the hall. One maid looks visibly confused, wondering what the master meant by dispose. They reach a wooden door at the end of the hall. The door swings open, exposing the contents of the hidden room. The maid's eyes go wide, her face trembling in absolute terror. Inside is a gruesome pile of maid bodies left in a bloody heap. Other maids are forced to mop up the carnage like it's nothing. One maid is horrified, unable to handle the cruelty of the scene. She grabs her companion, begging her to run before they get caught. The other maid is totally baffled, asking why they would ever flee. The first maid can't believe it, reminding her that serving is their duty. She shouts at the group, trying to wake them up to the reality. The other maids just stare blankly, saying disposing of bodies is their only job. The horrified maid cries out, begging them to realize this is wrong. A broom sweeps blood across the floor, highlighting the grim, repetitive cycle. They stare into space, having no concept of what happiness even means. Another maid shuts the conversation down, insisting they are just slaves. She claims they don't need a will or any self-awareness at all. The maids recite their purpose, claiming they exist only to be used. One maid shows a flicker of doubt, questioning their hollow existence. They remain trapped, surrounded by the mess of their own peers. The mansion stands silent and imposing, a monument to their endless suffering. The brother bangs his fist against a tree in frustration. A maiden looks at him with intense, sudden conviction in her eyes. She realizes something, her expression shifting from doubt to defiance. They argue over whether their current life is actually wrong. She shouts that she knows herself better than anyone else ever could. The two maids embrace, straining against each other in a desperate struggle. They share a vulnerable moment, acknowledging how painful this life really is. One tries to pull away, but the other refuses to let go. She insists that claiming they have no will is just a lie. The tension breaks as they accept the hidden truth of their own selves. The maids hold hands, promising they will definitely save each other now. A maid with a Roman numeral tattoo wonders if she truly understands. The armored man kicks the door down, entering the room like a boss. He glares at the kneeling maid, demanding to know who gave her permission. The maids bow, apologizing for their supposed insolence. He swings his arm, striking a maid with incredible, brutal speed. He calls them defective goods, clearly planning to scrap the whole lot. A glowing punch slams into a maid's face, creating a shockwave. He strikes her with his blade while she tries to brace for impact. Bleeding from the mouth, the maid looks up with pure red-eyed fury. The man readies his glowing sword, fully focused on the kill. Another maid steps in, pleading for him to wait a second. He swings his blade at her, furious that she dared command him. He complains that all these maids keep acting out on their own. The maid stares back with lethal intent, thinking it is time to die. He swings again, but a maid leaps in to shield the blow. The man freezes, his anger replaced by genuine shock at the move. He stares at his bloodied sword, confused why a clone would sacrifice itself. The wounded clone collapses into her partner's arms, leaving him stunned. He looks at the blood, haunted by the realization of what he just saw. The knight skewers a maid, the blade piercing clean through her chest. He stops mid-strike, his expression twisting into sudden, confused disbelief. The maid gasps as blood sprays, reeling from the direct hit. The knight realizes who he has hit, calling her Kuryu Minori. The brother is stunned, realizing that his cover is completely blown. He vaults over a gate, moving with desperate, high-speed urgency. He sprints through the hall, closing the gap with everything he has. A red button flashes, signaling that the threat is now active. The knight mocks the maid, asking if her brother is here to save her. He cruelly laughs that the brother will never make it to them anyway. The injured maid looks up, confused by his twisted, arrogant confidence. The brother faces down a wall of combat-trained maid clones. The knight sneers, noting how they all look like the sister. He fights through the crowd, parrying strikes with expert precision. He maneuvers through the air, dodging lethal attacks from every angle. He deflects a heavy halberd blow, struggling to keep his momentum. Two clones coordinate a pincer attack to pin him down. The cloaked maid kicks the other back, forcing a tactical retreat. One maid asks what is happening and is told he is the original's brother. They decide orders come first and prepare to execute him regardless of relation. The maids surround the cloaked figure while a voice from above declares them enemies. A mysterious character with a facial tattoo and red eyes vows to eliminate them. The cloaked girl gasps in shock as the orange-lit room turns hostile. A dark-haired boy with red highlights taps her shoulder and she recognizes him. He smiles, eyes glowing with a calm energy, and tells her it is okay. He wields a glowing red device, surrounded by a sudden surge of power. Pulsating with a red aura, he steps up to face the group of maids. He masks up, telling her to leave the rest to her big brother. A blonde knight strikes the girl with a blue sword and demands silence. The knight looms over his kneeling victim, laughing with twisted delight. He grabs her hair, forcing her to struggle for every breath. The knight pulls her head back, clearly enjoying the power dynamic. He closes his eyes and laughs, savoring the cruelty of the moment. His expression turns psychotic as he drools, obsessed with the real thing. He sends her flying with a blow, mocking her about the situation. He screams about being pissed off ever since his subordinates were killed. Kneeling, he taunts her for ever thinking she could run away. He kicks her in the face, asking if she wants to be owned. Bruised and angry, she glares at him for how he toyed with everyone. She refuses to forgive him and prepares to retaliate despite her wounds. The knight mocks a maid for seeking revenge over his previous torture. He grabs her by the head, starting to gloat about her actions. He notes how diligent she was to come rescue these mere dolls. A maid screams as she suffers a fatal, bloody injury from his blade. He mocks her poor swordsmanship, asking how she expected to hurt him. He lands a brutal strike on another maid, looking slightly annoyed. He coldly explains that these victims are just disposable toys to him. He raises his blade, asserting that he decides when they break. A clean, violent strike cuts through the maid, splashing blood everywhere. She collapses to the floor, gasping as he stands over her victorious. He forces another maid to look at him, sneering at her defiance. Holding his glowing sword, he threatens to replace her look with despair. He points the blade downward, ready to finish the job for good. He leaps into the air while the wounded maid groans in pain. Desperate, she channels a glowing rune, surrounded by a dark energy field. He pins her with his sword, barking a command for her to stop. He looms over her, asking if she understands her place among the bodies. He gestures to the wounded, calling them worthless dolls once again. With a cruel smirk, he dismisses their value entirely. The maid grits her teeth in pain, a dark red aura rising. The warrior demands she ask properly if she wants to save them. He grins maniacally, pointing at the floor and telling her to bow. Tears well up in her eyes as she stares back in frustration. He mocks her hesitation, asking if she really wants to save them. He presses his blade against her, screaming for her to bow down. He threatens her again as his blue blade glows with menace. He strikes near her eyes, forcing her to watch the others suffer. She bows her head in total defeat, begging him to stop. The warrior mocks her plea, asking if that is all she has. She pleads for him to stop bullying the others once and for all. He laughs, calling them his toys and wondering what to do next. He offers to reconsider if she takes their place instead. She bows her head to the floor before the tip of his blade. He uses his boot to force her face up, ordering her to lick. She stammers in terror, but he cuts her off, denying her any refusal. He forces the blade onto her, mocking her in front of everyone. A caption notes that she only has two responses, yes or understood. Traumatized and broken, she whispers a quiet yes. The warrior erupts into manic laughter, pressing the blade closer. He continues to mock her as she is forced to comply. He strikes the maid with his energy blade, causing her to cry out. Blood sprays as a tooth is severed from her mouth by the impact. She clutches her mouth, reeling from the pain of the strike. A single, bloodied tooth lies on the checkered floor. The warrior reaches down to pick it up. He inspects the tooth with a twisted, gleeful look. She watches in absolute terror, trembling as she covers her mouth. He smiles, tasting the blood and savoring the delicious flavor. She scrambles backward in fear, trying to escape his reach. He slashes his blade, sending energy trails flying through the air. His face fills the frame with a sadistic grin as he vows pursuit. She is sent flying, her clothes tattered, whispering a broken yes. Lunging forward, he demands she show more of that terrified expression. He commands her to cry, struggle, and resist as he advances. He tells her that in the end she will have to submit. The energy blade pierces her clothing, forcing a pained gasp. He laughs uncontrollably, fixated on his victim. The unhinged laughter continues as he enjoys the scene. She suddenly snaps, landing a powerful, focused punch on his face. The strike catches him off guard and sends him staggering backward. The warrior takes a heavy hit, spraying blood as he is knocked back. The brother arrives to shield Minori, who is relieved he came. He stands protectively as the warrior steadies himself against the wall. The warrior, bruised and bloody, demands to know about the clones. The brother denies killing his sister despite the warrior's accusations. He calmly confirms he simply incapacitated them to avoid any deaths. The warrior scoffs, calling the brother boring compared to his own ideas. He makes a disgusting threat to violate the sister in front of him. The brother's eyes glow with lethal intent as he vows to crush him. A massive sound effect erupts, signaling the start of the final fight. The brother launches himself with incredible speed, fist glowing red. The warrior blocks, though he is clearly rattled by the speed. The brother vanishes, leaving the warrior stunned and looking for him. Surrounded by lightning, the brother prepares an instant strike technique. He delivers a devastating punch, shredding the warrior's defensive aura. The fist connects with the warrior's side, drawing a massive spray of blood. The armor shatters under the immense pressure of the brother's blow. The warrior's equipment buckles as the force of the strike intensifies. He is lifted off the ground, his body bending from the sheer impact. The warrior is blasted backward, slamming into the wall as it crumbles. A yellow-clad knight in a grand hall faces off against a cloaked man breaking through the wall. The knight panics, screaming for his maid automatons to form a defensive wall around him. The cloaked man stands on the stairs, mocking the knight for hiding behind his pathetic dolls. He dismisses the knight's entire setup with cold, biting disdain, calling the whole thing lame. Furious, the knight snaps back, insisting that his dolls are his to use however he likes. The cloaked figure cuts him off, coldly ordering him to shut his mouth for good. The knight orders the maids to capture the intruder, sending them forward with weapons drawn. A chaotic fight breaks out and one of the dolls cries out in sudden pain. Her face shifts, revealing a bloody expression marked with the Roman numeral 9 on her skin. The cloaked man stares at her, his eyes wide with genuine visceral shock at the sight. As the battle rages, another maid is struck by a blade and lets out a cry. A frail, bleeding girl suddenly reaches out to the cloaked man, calling out for her brother. She is revealed as the consciousness behind the dolls, trapped amidst the surrounding destruction. A violent, sudden attack pierces through her, leaving her wounded and gasping in total shock. The cloaked man stands horrified, calling out her name Minori in a moment of pure despair. The maid dolls swarm the cloaked man, pinning him down and restraining his every move. He struggles against their grip, desperately pleading for them to just let him go. Looking into the eyes of his captor, he weeps, begging them to stop bullying him. The blood-covered girl locks eyes with him, whispering a final, haunting call to her brother. The armored knight takes a direct, brutal hit while maniacal laughter erupts through the hall. The blonde attacker taunts the brother, gripping his victim by the neck while blood sprays everywhere. Injured and breathing hard, the masked man is supported by a maid in a tense standoff. He apologizes to the maid for the pain she has been forced to endure. She stares back with intense concern, simply stating that this is just her job. Back in the fight, the blonde man mocks the hero for just being a follower of orders. The masked man's eyes glow with a red-tinged rage, radiating a heavy, dangerous energy. The blonde man swings his sword, leaving a bloody arc in the air as he sneers. He circles his opponents, taunting them for trying to run away from their fate. Raising his blade, he threatens to kill the maid if the masked man keeps resisting. The masked man's eyes widen in sharp, sudden alarm at the threat against his companion. He lunges into a violent clash, blood spraying as he forces an opening with his strike. The blonde man laughs like a maniac, gloating as he wipes the blood from his face. The masked man leaps forward, putting everything into a powerful, blurred strike against his foe. A woman screams as the blonde man threatens to torture her if the brother does not stop. The blonde man's eye glows with a sickly green light as he prepares a finisher. Surrounded by a green aura, he raises his weapon, declaring his great sword attack. The masked man counters with a massive gust of wind, screaming out his windbreaker technique. Standing over the fallen hero, the blonde man sneers that he'll have fun with the sister. He brutally crushes the masked man's face into the blood-soaked floor with his heavy boot. With a skeletal hand, the hero lunges up, landing a red-infused kick on his opponent. The battered hero stands in a red aura, tattered and exhausted, challenging his enemy's supposed victory. The blonde antagonist stands tall in golden armor, mocking the half-dead man with a cruel grin. Flanked by his maid protectors on the stairs, the hero stands firm to guard them. He wonders why they are so confused, while one maid asks why he protects them. With a small, determined smile, he tells her that he needs no reason to save his sister. The maids look on in shock, their expressions shifting from hollow obedience to dawning realization. Frustrated that his control is slipping, the antagonist glares with a furious, green-eyed gaze. He calls the maids mere dolls and slaves made by Byakuran's technology, dismissing their value. Turning his back, he orders the dolls to kill the man who dared to protect them. He laughs maniacally, promising that whoever kills the hero will get to serve him instead. The maids hesitate, standing frozen on the red carpet instead of following his command. Desperate and losing his grip, the blonde man screams at them not to ignore his orders. They grip their spears, their red eyes turning cold as they speak in unison. The blonde man is cut off mid-shout, his face frozen in pure shattering shock. A cloaked figure at the top of the stairs notes that they finally understand the truth. Fear takes over the blonde man's face as he realizes his authority has completely vanished. The cloaked figure calmly states they now know everything they have suffered until this point. The hero watches with a piercing gaze, realizing why this person protected them all along. The maids move into tactical formation, weapons leveled at the man who once controlled them. The blonde man cowers in pathetic fear, raising his hands as the maids surround him. Battered and bloodied, the blonde man stands before the maids as a dark warning appears. The maids surround the isolated man, the caption declaring they will not let anyone bully their brother. A red-haired character looks on, completely confused by the sudden change in the situation. The maids reveal they are all clones of Kuryu Minori, sharing the exact same genetic identity. Because of this shared consciousness, they have all inherited memories of the hero protecting them. A maid speaks to the cloaked figure, her expression full of newfound reverence and loyalty. The red-haired man contemplates the nature of the physical manipulation skill being used here. The explanation reveals the user can control separated parts of themselves, sharing scenes with clones. The blonde man demands to know what is happening, still clinging to his title as master. He screams in rage, insisting that the dolls should be doing exactly what he says. The maids ignore him completely, standing their ground as he continues to shout his orders. They declare that while they don't understand warmth, anyone who hurts their brother is an enemy. Two identical maids with matching red eyes confirm their unified stance against the blonde man. Trembling with fury, the man draws his blade and threatens to pierce them all. The red-haired man moves at blinding speed, interrupting the attack with a strike to the throat. Sent flying backward, the blonde man screams in agony as a staff strike incapacitates him. He is pinned to the ground by the maids, wheezing as the hero stares him down. With narrow, red eyes, the hero coldly asks how he should go about killing him. A maid steps forward with a weapon, determined to fulfill the task of revenge herself. The hero stops her, insisting he needs to take his own revenge despite a frantic plea. Pinned to the wall, the golden-armored man screams as a cloaked figure approaches with a staff. A sharp red slash tears through the air, hitting the man in a burst of agony. Bloodied and weeping, the man cries out that the pain is still not enough. The cloaked individual declares they will grind him into pieces until he cannot make a sound. The attacker pauses, looking toward a companion to ask if the brutal action is okay. The companion, marked with an X, notes they have all suffered unimaginable pain just like him. They recall how dozens were turned into toys for Ishiki and died in agony. A close-up shows the companion's eyes glowing with dark, intense rage for the fallen man. A man in a white jacket acknowledges their suffering, saying he finally understands the situation. A flashback reveals the horror of the maids being killed and violated repeatedly over time. The marked woman confirms it was hell on earth, while another maid weeps in the background. A monster in a dungeon is shown, drugged by technology to target any living thing. The man asks if the creature attacks even human males, and the woman confirms it. Another flashback shows a red-haired hunter on the ground before the golden-armored man. The narration confirms that the hunter was forced to suffer at the hands of the creature. Back in the present, the man calls out to Minori as they stand together. The companion agrees that any method of revenge against Ishiki is acceptable to her. She walks forward with purpose, ordering the others to show her the way to the end. Chained in a dark cell, the golden-armored man screams in desperation for them to let go. The group stands together, gazing into the distance with grim, resolve-filled expressions on their faces. Things are kicking off with some serious tech-monitored lab work behind those metal bars. A blonde guy is totally losing it as a horned beast gets unleashed on him. He is absolutely panicking, screaming that he does not want any part of this nightmare. The monster is a result of some Emperor magic transformation, and it is closing in fast. Someone watching the monitors realizes exactly what kind of freakish experiment they are dealing with here. These horned creatures are basically walking nukes, each one strong enough to wipe out a country. Originally, they only cared about the ladies, but things have taken a dark turn lately. Thanks to some shady drug-induced modifications by Byakuran, these things are now an equal opportunity threat. The crew watching the feed is rightfully grossed out and wants to look away immediately. They decide to just shut the shutters because nobody needs to see what happens next. The beast starts tearing into the guy while laughing like a total maniacal nightmare. It rips his clothes to shreds, leaving him completely helpless in the middle of the cell. The victim is starting to break mentally, staring at the chains with a hollow, empty look. The creature is just breathing hard and drooling, ready to finish its sick little game. It stands over him like a predator, pinning him firmly to the floor in chains. The room is filled with chaotic, deafening noise as the brutal scene reaches its peak. Back outside the cell, someone asks if the original Minori is holding it together okay. The guy is totally drained, just wanting a break after everything they have had to witness. The maid offers to brew some tea to help them calm their nerves for a minute. They sit together in the dim light, thankful they survived having to watch that mess. Our guy grabs a drink, mentioning he planned to off the captive eventually anyway. The girl is super grateful he kept his word and avoided killing anyone since the start. She bows her head, thanking him for his mercy during such a chaotic situation. He brushes it off, saying it is not even worth the thanks, just keeping things moving. He shifts gears, asking her to give him a tour of this massive mansion. He is low-key thinking about supplies and needing to dig up dirt on Byakuren. She agrees to stay behind and keep watch until the whole thing is finally wrapped up. She tells the maid to go ahead and guide the guy around the place. The maid, known as Number 3, turns to lead him through the dark halls. As they head up the stairs, he asks her what her plan is for later. She admits she has no clue since they were just lab-made tools with no real choice. She says the world will never accept them, which clearly catches him off guard. He fires back, telling her that even if the world hates them, he definitely does not. He insists she does not need some grand purpose to justify her own existence. He tells her that just being alive is enough, leaving her completely stunned and speechless. A rare, genuine smile breaks across her face as she starts to reconsider her life. She types a code into the keypad, thinking to herself that she is going to live. She turns back to him, smiling and promising to live the best life she can. Then out of nowhere, a blade flashes and slices her neck wide open. Blood sprays everywhere, and the guy stares in absolute horror at what just happened. He is standing there frozen, looking at the headless body of the maid he just talked to. Her head hits the floor, and it is a gruesome, bloody mess in the middle of the hall. He is staring in disbelief, wondering why someone would do something this incredibly messed up. A smug, light-haired guy with a sword stands there, acting like it is a casual reunion. The hallway is basically a slaughterhouse now, and the newcomer is just looking for Cena. Our guy is kneeling in the blood, completely overwhelmed by the sudden shift in reality. The swordsman is ready to fight, and our guy realizes the reunion is going to be fatal. A dark, ominous vow hangs in the air, and the intruder clearly plans to kill everyone. The guy's pupils are glowing pink, and he has this unhinged, dangerous grin on his face. He swings his blade in a massive arc of light, and the warning comes too late. Our guy tries to dodge but gets hit by invisible strikes, reeling back in pain. The swordsman mocks him for being too slow to even react to the opening strike. He gets sent flying through the air, screaming as blood sprays from his fresh wounds. He lands hard, his fist glowing with a red aura ready for a desperate counter. He fires a massive red energy slash, but the swordsman looks totally bored by it. The guy grabs him by the throat, trash-talking his speed while holding him steady. He tries a desperate punch, but the swordsman just parries it away like it is nothing. A blue aura flares up as the swordsman warns him that reckless moves are useless here. He has this crazy, ecstatic look in his eyes, totally enjoying every second of this. He delivers a final, blinding blue strike that cuts through the air and his opponent. The shockwave destroys the hallway, sending chunks of the building flying in every direction. A dark energy vortex opens up, and our guy looks completely rattled by the pressure. He's bleeding from a bad arm wound, calling the other guy a total monster. The silver-haired guy just laughs, finding it rich that an immortal would call anyone a monster. Our guy tries to trigger his regeneration, but he's trapped in the corridor. He stares at his arm in total panic because the wound is just staying open. The realization hits him hard, his heart dropping when he sees his skill is failing. The antagonist explains he used a holy attribute that blocks regeneration after being cut. He is feeling cornered and haunted, realizing this Kira guy is on another level entirely. He knows he is beaten, so he just hopes Minori can make it out alive. He shouts at him, demanding to know how he even found their hiding spot. The silver-haired guy takes a second to think, looking almost thoughtful for a moment. He says he figured it out when Seiya stopped sending his regular reports in. He grins and calls it lucky for him, though clearly very unlucky for everyone else. Our guy demands an answer to his earlier question about what he said before. The guy leans in close with a creepy dark smirk, looking like pure trouble. When he mentions his sister is in the mansion, our guy finally loses his cool. They're standing over the bodies, and the gravity of the situation fully sinks in. The antagonist walks past him, acting like he has zero interest in avenging his squad. He actually beams with a sinister smile, saying he is glad the guy killed them. He spreads his arms, bragging that the deaths just helped them level up even more. He is totally unhinged, thinking that killing our guy will be an even bigger boost. The protagonist is slumped on the floor, whispering that the guy is completely insane. The antagonist just shrugs it off, standing amidst the carnage like it is a playground. He starts moving with insane speed, leaving blue energy trails all over the hall. He lands a brutal strike from behind, and blood sprays out from the protagonist's chest. The protagonist coughs up blood, his face twisting in agony from the sudden heavy hit. A close-up shows the antagonist absolutely loving the sight of all that fresh blood. He is surrounded by a blue aura, laughing his head off at the sheer thrill. He is totally lost in the rush, calling this level of power the absolute best. They square off again, the protagonist battered but still trying to hold his ground. He stares him down with red eyes, screaming that he's going to kill him. The antagonist just mocks him, telling him there is absolutely no way that happens. He unleashes a massive blue energy dome, shouting the name of his technique, Holy Domain. The protagonist is forced back by the overwhelming pressure, struggling to even breathe. He gets hit by invisible forces again, and the antagonist laughs at how weak he is. He stands there radiating power, letting the guy know he cannot even touch him. The protagonist is bleeding out, realizing his regeneration is failing to keep up with this. He starts thinking about absolute power, desperate for a way to turn the tables. The antagonist looms over him, sword ready, saying the sister is next on his list. Cornered, our guy gets an ultimatum: come quietly or the sister gets it. The pale-haired antagonist is not kidding. Resist, and he takes both of them. Desperate, our boy begs for the truth. The villain just toys with him. You can see the pure terror on his face. He is totally out of options. He hits the floor begging. It's total surrender just to keep her safe. He's pleading for his life. Just take me and leave her out of this. He's practically groveling, begging for his sister Minori to be spared. The villain just laughs at him, mocking his lack of any real dignity. He pretends to agree, acting like he's doing the guy a big favor. Then the vibe shifts. Our guy catches on that something is really wrong. The villain gets right in his face, looking absolutely unhinged and malicious. With a dark aura, he drops the act. Yeah, he's killing her too. Our guy snaps. He lunges at him, screaming in absolute, unfiltered rage. But the villain just effortlessly dodges, dancing around the guy like he is nothing. The guy lands, surrounded by these creepy maid figures amidst the chaos. A woman nearby screams for everyone to protect her brother, pure panic mode. The villain surveys the bodies, annoyed that Seiya left some of them alive. The sister is freaking out, desperate to know if her brother is okay. He's screaming at them to stop, knowing full well they cannot win this. It's a massacre. The villain cuts them down like nothing while our guy yells. Two hooded figures step up. They know they're doomed, but they're buying time. The guy looks shocked, realizing what they're about to actually do. They focus their energy into a core, blasting him upward in a beam. The hooded girl is determined. It's their turn to save him for once. The system flags it as instant transfer. They're getting him out of here. He's completely stunned by the sheer magical power of the whole thing. He's mid-teleport, sword still drawn, as the light starts to swallow them. He realizes this spell requires massive mana, just like his friend Sajiri-S. One of the hooded figures collapses, totally drained. The villain is just annoyed. Even as he escapes, he's still standing his ground, taunting the maid trio. One maid just stands there, manifesting a gun right out of her chest. She's prepping for war, telling him he should know what they are. Flashback time, they're basically calling them disposable, just a little trick. Some guy with messy hair is just planning to use them and toss them. Our protagonist is in total disbelief. He cannot wrap his head around it. They were using the original Minori as a biological bomb. That's just messed up. The core glows, whispers a final thank you, and the whole place detonates. A massive blue explosion tears through the hall, absolute sensory overload. We cut to Sajiri Aya looking like a total queen in that outfit. She's the most beautiful woman around, or so the reputation goes. Everyone falls for her charm, but it's all just a carefully crafted mask. Back to a guy in a robe chilling in a high-rise at night. He's got a drink, and there's a shadowy version of her behind the door. He goes to open the door, totally oblivious to what's coming next. He drops his glass in pure shock. Something really bad just went down. The lady is in the shower, blood-soaked and absolutely manic. Her true colors: 6 months ago, a cloaked figure gets past the security authentication. She's stalking through a secret facility, checking on her sick little collection. She's at a terminal, looking at a progress bar. Things are moving fast. She's obsessed, eyes glowing red, wanting to speed up the whole process. She's got 2 people chained up in a tank. Poor souls are unconscious. A close-up on the captives. They look miserable, pale, and completely broken. She's typing away, annoyed that the progress stopped for a second. A mechanical vortex starts spinning beneath them. It's a total torture chamber. The suction is insane, just ripping through the water with glowing force. It's a whirlpool of death, dragging at them while they hang there. Blood starts filling the tank. It's getting real dark, real fast. She's standing in the red light, laughing like a total lunatic. She's whispering to the captives through the glass, truly a twisted scene. The blood flows through the pipes. She's mad this is not leveling her up. The computer says they're over 50%, but she really does not care. She's staring down a captive, just focused on getting that precious blood. She thought the Undying would be zombies, but they're way too pretty. The captive is crying, but the witch is just obsessed with their skin. No matter how much they suffer, they stay looking like babies. That's her ultimate dream, eternal youth and beauty to lure in everyone. She's seething with envy because the captive was born with it. She reaches for the tap, ready to take what she wants. She pours herself a glass of the blood like it's fine wine. One sip and she's already feeling the effects, just pure vanity. She's convinced that drinking the blood is the key to everything. She strikes a pose, looking sparkling and younger than ever. She's licking her lips, looking totally satisfied with her little routine. She tells the digital Kira to keep the blood coming. She's addicted. Kira just laughs, a cold, echoing sound that chills the whole room. Back to the present, a massive light pillar erupts in the forest. The place is totally empty. They slip through her fingers again. Kira looks up, wondering if they actually managed to get away. He pulls up a holographic projection of Aya to check in. He's way too casual, and she is absolutely not having it today. Someone in a hat is screaming about the missing siblings. They're failing. The witch does not care about Seiya, she just wants that fresh blood. Haruto asks why she's panicking when she has plenty of it stored. She loses it, shouting that it has to be fresh to work. She's spiraling, terrified of losing her beauty and her precious youth. Haruto is clearly over her drama, he really could not care less. She tries to order him around, calling him useless and screaming orders. Haruto is not impressed, since when does she get to command him? He tells her to do it herself if she's so obsessed with it. He makes a snide comment about wrinkles and someone calls his name. The witch is glowing gold, absolutely livid, ready to start a fight. She explodes with power, basically saying it's on now. She's standing in the middle of a firestorm, looking like a total boss. A girl with teal hair wakes up in a glowing cave, calling out. They're in a dungeon, having been yeeted all the way to the gate. Our guy is panicking, asking where the rest of the crew is. She looks down, knowing exactly what that means for them. He's clutching his arm, totally haunted by everything that just happened. He's on his knees, guilty as hell for not being able to save everyone. She pulls him into a hug, trying to comfort him through the trauma. She hugs him, telling him he fought hard and everyone truly understands his intent. He's still beating himself up over his past mistakes and wanting to save everyone. She reassures him that his feelings reach them, which is why they ultimately switch sides. A flashback shows her crying as she relays their final, parting message to him. He's completely broken, eyes bloodshot and streaming with tears from the sheer weight of grief. Still on his knees, he whispers that he is just too weak to handle this. She cradles his face, both of them weeping as he vows to get much stronger. She agrees, mirroring his intensity and confirming they are in this together now. They lock hands in the blue cave light, making a silent pact to level up. She mentions he's been out for a day and Byakuran dropped a new announcement. He asks if it's about their kill, but she notes it's actually something much bigger. She shows her phone, revealing their bounties have been jacked up to 5 billion each. He stares at the screen, shocked that the price on their heads is that insane. Social media is hunting them, so they need to ditch the dungeon before they're tracked. The two move fast through the bioluminescent tunnels, looking for a way out of here. She spots the exit in the ceiling and calls out that they found the way. Suddenly, he freezes up, sensing something absolutely terrifying blocking their path forward. He yanks her back, shouting for her to stop before they run into a disaster. A massive, menacing silhouette blocks the entrance, vibrating with some seriously dark energy. An extreme close-up shows a glowing orange eye, clearly looking for a fight. It's a massive dragon, scales dark and purple eyes glowing, ready to tear them apart. They're caught completely in the open, the guy stammering in sheer terror at the sight. The dragon lets out a massive blast of fire, forcing him to scream out, "Dragon!" The beast dives through the trees, casting a huge shadow as it prepares to strike. She wants to retreat into the dungeon, but he yells that they have to run. A beam of concentrated fire explodes behind them as they scramble to get away. From above, the dragon tracks them with a vertical pillar of flame, melting the forest. The dragon circles back, leaving the pair looking like ants compared to the inferno. Smoke fills the woods while the dragon glides over the wreckage it just caused. They pause for a breath, wondering why a top-tier boss is even outside the dungeon. He shields her as they sprint, but the dragon is closing the gap fast now. The dragon opens its maw again and they realize they have absolutely no winning odds. Twin streams of fire cut off their path, forcing them to dodge the molten heat. He spots a town nearby, hoping this dragon won't attack since that goes against lore. The dragon immediately nukes a building, proving his theory about their behavior completely wrong. She stares at the destruction, stunned and traumatized by the casual display of power. That breath is over 3,000 degrees, enough to melt literally anything in its path. Its scales are basically tank-proof, requiring multiple top guilds just to have a chance. He looks up, realizing the scale of the threat, and asks how they possibly survive. With no other options, he tells her they have to stand and fight it. She's stunned that he's actually suggesting they take on a dragon right now. He gets into a stance, aura flaring, saying they'll kill it to level up. He reminds her that if they run now, they have no shot at beating Kira. His fist trembles with pure intensity against the backdrop of the burning forest fire. He tells her to split up so they can flank the massive beast. He leaps into the trees while she circles around to take the right side. The dragon roars, purple eyes glowing, completely ready to incinerate both of them. It fires a stream of flames at him and he wonders if he can connect. He activates physical enhancement, his body glowing red as he prepares a heavy strike. They both charge at once, him in the air and her moving on the ground. He realizes that even a dragon is just a living creature with a target. He lunges straight for the snout, aiming to deliver a massive, red-hot punch. The impact hits with enough force to send shockwaves rippling through the air. He recoils, his hand bleeding, shocked by how hard those damn scales actually are. Minori tries to slide her blade into the gaps between the dragon's armor plates. The steel struggles against the hide, and she grunts in frustration at the resistance. Her attack fails, and the dragon towers over her, ready to swat her away. A tail swipe sends her flying, and he screams her name in absolute horror. The dragon turns its maw toward him, unleashing a blast as he dives in. Fire engulfs the area, and Minori screams out for her big brother in desperation. She charges back in, screaming at the dragon, completely fueled by pure defiance. The dragon is wreathed in dark energy, turning the whole forest into a red hell. She tries to block with a magic circle, but the black flames crush her guard. She's forced back, gasping as her defenses buckle under the weight of the attack. She stares in horror as the black fire burns her magic itself, which is wild. The flames hit her directly and she lets out a scream of pure agony. A flash of her other form appears, showing her internal struggle to stay focused. She grips her blade, eyes burning, knowing she has to power up right now. She lunges again, trailing dark energy as she cuts through the suffocating air. She holds the line and he watches from the foreground, fists clenched and shaking. She looks back, realizing the situation is dire while he readies his own energy. He yells out to her that it is not over yet, focusing his intent. He's clutching his mangled arm, noting that this is the first time he's been melted. He lets out a primal, pained cry, pushing through the damage to keep moving. He shouts for her to go, using the distraction to open a small window. She lands a brutal blow, drawing blood and making the dragon roar in pain. He sees the opening and screams for her to strike now for the finish. She launches herself at the beast, moving at top speed with lethal intent. She pours every bit of her remaining power into one final, massive spell. Unleashing a black inferno, she hits the dragon with a chaotic vortex of darkness. The dragon screams as the dark energy tears through it, wailing in pure pain. He lunges toward the wounded beast, ready to finish the job for good. He shouts to gather his energy, compressing all his power into one strike. He realizes his normal fists won't break the scales, so he tries a pierce. Focusing every ounce of strength, he aims for a single, critical point. He releases a thin beam of energy, screaming as it drills through the head. The dragon collapses dead, its massive wings splayed out across the forest floor. He stands over the body, shocked that he actually managed to pull it off. Blue system notifications pop up everywhere, signaling a massive level up for the guy. They sit on the carcass, exhausted, both feeling like they might actually pass out. He asks about her new power, and she says it awakened from the flames. He smiles, telling her that's amazing, and she giggles in response. They look at the ruins, wondering how a dragon ended up here so suddenly. He inspects the body, realizing someone must have been controlling the beast. A flashback shows the dragon's eyes under a faint, sinister pink hypnotic light. A woman sits bound in a dark space, surrounded by that same pink aura. A close-up of eyes with heart-shaped pupils reveals the source of the control. He identifies the signs of hypnotic magic, confirming his suspicion about the attack. He realizes who is behind this, knowing exactly who can pull off that hypnosis. A woman in a witch's hat smirks, identified as the one and only Sajiri Aya. Ardu spots a flock of birds scattering, signaling that something major just arrived. The guy is visibly rattled, staring at his partner with pure concern on his face. The sky is crawling with dragons, and two figures are dropping from a red one. They do not even wait to land, just yeeting themselves off the dragon toward the ground. The guy is sweating bullets while the girl draws her blade, ready for the incoming. They realize these attackers are just more puppets being controlled by hypnotic magic. Everything goes into motion as the ambush kicks off with a blur of speed. The enemies strike, forcing the girl to dodge as the guy lets out a grunt. He reaches for her, calling out her name while a glowing sword blocks the hit. A brutal punch lands on one of the armored goons, hitting with absolute heavy impact. He holds his ground in a defensive stance, eyes locked on the next threat. High above, a dragon opens its maw to unleash a massive, concentrated beam of fire. The blast hits the earth, triggering a massive explosion that swallows the entire area. Looking at the blast zone, he notes the reach is way bigger than before. They realize the enemy has successfully tracked their exact location on the map. The dragon circles as the remaining hunters close in for another round of combat. He tells her to handle the hunters while he focuses on the dragon above. They check the status of the enemies, confirming they are definitely still being mind-controlled. He sighs, accepting the situation while she stands right behind him, looking stressed. Apologizing for putting her in danger, he tells her to step back for cover. He tells her he is going to solo this mess to keep her safe. She is clearly torn, gripping her chest as anxiety starts to get the better of her. He walks away, but she wonders if she should really let him carry the burden. She closes her eyes, struggling with the choice between safety and standing by him. A quick flash shows a maid-like figure getting absolutely wrecked by a blue blade. Her eyes snap open, glowing red as she hits a critical point of realization. She grabs his arm, stopping him dead in his tracks with a firm command. She admits she is done just relying on his strength and needs to step up. He smirks, finally agreeing that they should be doing this together from now on. They sync up, both ready to turn this fight into a full-blown revenge mission. The pair charges the four guards head-on, screaming for the fight to begin. She channels her energy, cupping her hands to gather a massive orb of fire. She lets it rip, torching a guard as they push forward into the fray. He weaves through the combat with his blade as she provides heavy fire support. A massive green dragon drops in, purple eyes glowing, and blocks their path forward. It charges a sphere of blue energy, teeth bared, ready to vaporize them both. The beam hits and the guy takes the full brunt of the magical force. His body gets shredded by the blast, triggering a terrifying body manipulation technique. The sheer force of the energy nearly splits him in two as blood sprays. The dragon lunges, dominating the carnage while blood splatters all over the battlefield. A red eye glows as he activates a venom infusion to counter the monster. The dragon recoils, scales melting away from the corrosive red liquid he just applied. He kicks the beast back, sending more toxic spray flying into the air. No time for pity, he tells the fallen dragon he has to keep moving. A wall of level-up notifications pops up, confirming he's getting stronger fast. He mows down guards with flame bullets while one opponent apologizes mid-fight. She gets jumped from above, gasping as the waves of enemies just keep coming. A glowing red blade pierces through her gut, leaving her gasping for air. She collapses, overwhelmed by the sheer number of masked enemies closing in on her. He hits a breaking point, eyes glowing red, deciding he cannot hold back anymore. He unleashes a black flame explosion that tears through the entire forest clearing. The blast wipes out the crowd, but one voice cries out for him to stop. She stands over the wreckage, begging them to quit so she can heal them. She freezes in confusion, realizing something is seriously wrong with the situation. The injured soldiers stand back up, possessed by shadow energy despite their wounds. She realizes the hypnosis is forcing them to fight even when they are broken. They stand there, burning with dark auras, completely stripped of their own will. She backs away in horror as the burning, possessed soldiers shamble toward her. He looks at the sky, wondering what the hell is even happening right now. They face a line of dragons and guards as purple magic signals a trap. She locks eyes with the enemy, finally calling out the person behind the curtain. A witch appears, surrounded by lightning, smirking like she's been waiting for this. Her goons note that their target came alone, thinking she can handle the heat. He steps in front of his partner, demanding to know how the witch found them. The witch explains she shares senses with her puppets, though she finds it tedious. She mocks them for having the guts to show up without backup. She claims she did not even need her main squad to deal with these two. The girl fires back, unleashing a massive wave of black flames at the witch. The fire surges forward, a wall of dark red destruction aimed right at her. The witch dodges, using her own puppets as a human shield for the flames. She giggles, enjoying the convenience of using people as living armor against attacks. The girl watches in total despair as her allies are sacrificed by the witch. She screams at the witch, demanding to know if she values human life at all. The witch looks at her with a blank stare, honestly confused by the question. She tosses aside the charred body of the puppet, calling it totally meaningless trash. The girl is paralyzed, staring at the absolute carnage in total, traumatized shock. The witch declares that only her own beauty and strength matter in this world. The girl shouts that there is no hierarchy, but the witch just laughs it off. She calls the girl's morality a cute little fantasy that is about to end. Surrounded by pink lightning, the witch prepares to shatter their reality for good. She channels glowing purple energy, looking completely menacing as the air crackles. A flashcard reveals her signature technique, the violet lightning flash. The strike hits and someone screams in agony as the landscape lights up. Her partner gets launched into the air and he watches in total horror. He screams her name, but the witch is already closing the distance to him. She presses against his face, mocking his concern for others over his own life. He is caught off guard, eyes wide, realizing he is completely out of position. She leans in, the temptation hypnosis taking hold as she moves to kiss him. Minori watches from a distance, helpless to stop what is happening on the cliff. She whispers a desperate plea, watching her world start to crumble apart. He is entranced, eyes turning pink as the witch's mind control takes full effect. Minori stares up from the base, seeing the two of them standing together. He is totally vacant now, just a puppet with glowing pink eyes and no will. Minori loses it, screaming at the top of her lungs for her brother. The witch strokes his chin, promising him eternal youth if he just stays quiet. She pulls him close, licking her lips like a predator playing with her food. Minori lunges forward, desperate to save him from the witch's sick control. The witch pulls a blade, making a lightning-fast strike in the confusion. Minori realizes she is holding the blade that just impaled her own brother. She stares at the blood-stained steel, her hands shaking as she whispers in shock. The witch taunts the girl for stabbing her own brother, clearly enjoying the chaos. Minori is caught off guard, scrambling to defend herself while still reeling from the shock. The witch lets out a pained groan, her grin widening as she channels dark energy. Minori takes a clean hit to her defense as her brother strikes with glowing intensity. Minori begs her brother to wake up, but the witch just watches like a hawk. The witch mocks Minori, telling her that pleading with a puppet is totally useless. The witch reveals only she can break the hypnosis unless someone kills her first. Following orders, the brother lunges at Minori, forcing her to scramble into a block. A brutal kick sends Minori flying across the battlefield as the pressure mounts. The brother dives in with a glowing fist, leaving Minori terrified and on edge. The impact of his strike creates a massive shockwave, forcing a painful grunt out. The witch gloats about the irony of being beaten by the one you love. Minori realizes he's way too strong and she has to fight back to survive. With deep regret, she whispers an apology while preparing for the inevitable clash. Her blade starts glowing with a dark aura as she steals her shaking resolve. The brother looks completely hollow, his eyes glowing purple under the witch's full control. Suddenly, he breaks into a creepy smile and starts calling her name repeatedly. Minori stares back in total confusion, thrown off by his sudden, jarring behavior change. He moves with insane speed, forcing Minori to lock up and hold her ground. He keeps the pressure high, leaping into the air to rain down more attacks. Minori kneels in the dirt, paralyzed by the thought of fighting her own brother. The brother grabs her by the throat, cutting off her air and causing real pain. With blood on her lip, she struggles to figure out what she should even do. A glitchy memory flickers by, showing him acting strangely and touching her head. That same memory distorts to show his face twisted into a cold, predatory grin. Then it shifts to him crying, a stark contrast to his current malicious state. Back in the present, a faded memory of their promise to get stronger flashes. The witch interrupts her internal monologue, scoffing at her for muttering to herself. As she struggles for air, a dark, cold resolve starts to take over Minori. She finally snaps, screaming that she is going to kill the witch right now. The air turns thick with hostility as Minori yells at the old hag in fury. Enraged by the disrespect, the witch points her staff and screams for his destruction. Minori launches a blast of crimson energy straight toward her brother in desperation. He just stands there and deflects it, still mumbling apologies in his own head. Minori summons a massive orb of black flames, crying as she unleashes the explosion. The blast tears through the forest, leaving the witch annoyed by the sudden danger. The witch hides behind a purple barrier, clearly irritated by the chaotic turn of events. Minori reflects on how she always relied on her brother to handle everything before. She remembers walking alongside him, feeling safe as long as he was leading them. The memory shatters into the brutal reality of being pinned down by a monster. Red and dark energy collide, turning the battlefield into a high-speed blur of combat. Minori's eyes glow as she decides her current performance just isn't good enough yet. She keeps pace with her brother, trading blows in a flurry of red light. She lands a solid hit, drawing blood as her fist connects with raw force. She follows up with a lethal energy slash, refusing to let him catch his breath. Another heavy kick sends him reeling, his head snapping back from the sheer impact. He realizes through the attacks that his brother is still trying to say sorry. He decides he is done being the weak one who always drags his sister down. Level up notifications pop up everywhere as she vows to protect her brother properly. They trade strikes in a rapid sequence, her combat ability surging with every level. They lock arms in a massive cross-block, the peak of their intense training struggle. She grapples him, repeating her vow to become stronger no matter the cost. Tears well up in her eyes as she embraces him amidst the red-tinted chaos. A massive explosion rocks the area, swallowing the battlefield in a blinding red light. The witch watches, shocked that they would go for such a suicidal-looking move. She shakes it off, deciding she doesn't really care if they take each other out. The thick smoke is annoying, but she is confident their blood is already hers. She is getting impatient, just wanting to retrieve them and wrap this up now. Minori speaks up from the smoke, explaining that she decided to fight back ages ago. She stands tall, radiating a dark red aura as she prepares to face the witch. The witch is completely rattled by the sudden spike in Minori's magical power. The siblings stand together, red aura swirling around them as he thanks her. They both know they have the power to fight back against the witch now. The pair approaches the witch, who stands waiting in the middle of the wasteland. The witch wonders if the explosion actually managed to break her hypnotic hold. She laughs it off, deciding she will just cast the spell on them again. She stands on a ridge, commanding a red dragon and soldiers with purple light. Her controlled minions leap into the air, charging straight toward the two siblings. Minori parries a strike, light flashing as their swords clash in a sparks-filled frenzy. Her brother leaps high into the air while she holds her ground on the ground. He descends with a heavy kick, looking to break through the line of attackers. He dodges a blast of dragon fire, clearly annoyed by the constant harassment now. The dragon keeps the heat on, breathing a torrent of fire toward the siblings. Minori quickly conjures glowing circles to counter the overwhelming wall of dragon flames. She fires back with a massive black flame attack, hitting the dragon square on. The witch watches her battered minions, unimpressed by their lack of real results. She stands by the defeated dragon, calling the whole effort a waste of time. She notes that these puppets don't even feel pain, making them easy to command. They just keep lurching forward, moving blindly until their hearts finally give out. They realize they have to finish the job for good or these things won't stop. They brace for the next wave, knowing they have to end this fight quickly. A bloodied, crazed enemy lunges at the brother with glowing, malevolent eyes. He counters with a brutal punch, spraying blood as the enemy's head snaps back. The enemy stands there, dripping with gore and looking completely wrecked by the hit. They snap back into a monstrous, wide-mouthed grin under the saturated red lighting. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing this is going to be a long fight. Minori screams that they need to knock them out since magic isn't the issue. The realization hits him hard, and he finally understands how to handle them. He moves in with his sword, cutting through defenses as blood sprays everywhere. He lands another crushing hit, still annoyed that the fight is dragging on. They are surrounded by swordsmen, and he admits there are just too many enemies. A red dragon roars as it descends, leaving him shocked by the sudden arrival. The dragon pins him to the ground with a claw, the witch standing above. Minori screams out for her brother, horrified to see him pinned by the beast. The screen flashes with the name of the technique, Pure Temptation Hypnosis, in effect. A purple magic circle glows as the witch looms over him, dominating the air. She smiles, boasting that her hypnosis is absolute and nobody can escape her reach. She sneers, noting that their stamina must be completely tapped out by now. She cackles manically, mocking his dazed state while he stands there totally vulnerable. She strokes his face, leaning in to seal the deal and pull him under. This fancy lady in the hat is really losing it, screaming for her goons to tear our heroes apart. She tries to bark orders at her buddy, but he suddenly gets absolutely rocked by an invisible force. Dude takes a massive shot to the face and goes down, blood flying everywhere like a bad action flick. The witch is totally blindsided by the counterattack, letting out a pathetic little yelp as the guy dominates. She lands in the dirt looking completely confused, like she's trying to figure out how her cheat codes failed. The hero stands over her, cool as ice, and drops the news that her hypnosis is basically useless now. He flexes his magical aura, flat out telling her he's just leveled up past her pathetic little tricks. She's losing her mind, screaming that it should be impossible for him to just overwrite her soul-binding magic. Panicking, she takes to the sky and starts dumping fire and lightning everywhere, just spamming the die button. The air is practically vibrating with her explosion spam, but she's just wasting mana at this point. Our duo is chilling behind a hexagonal shield, basically laughing at her while she throws a massive tantrum. Her face is pure unadulterated salt, all bloody and twisted into a mask of total rage. She's hovering there surrounded by magic circles, just screeching at the top of her lungs like a broken record. She's fully spiraling now, eyes glowing as she loses every ounce of composure she ever had. She drops a meteor shower on them, turning the terrain into a war zone, but it's all for nothing. The barrage hits the shield and does absolutely zero, with the hero calling out her weak play. She loads up a dark red beam of pure spite, clearly trying to one-shot them with a heavy skill. The guy just tosses up an ice shield, casually parrying the hit like he's playing a Souls game. Her eyes pop out of her skull in shock because her best move just got completely shut down. The energy feedback wrecks her own defenses, and she's left coughing up blood in total disbelief. Now she's the one feeling the heat, literally screaming as red flames cook her skin and vanity. The hero stands on a ledge, watching the witch burn while reminding her that pain is a universal constant. She looks cold and detached, telling the witch that they know this suffering way better than she does. She points out that the witch's own magic is the reason she's getting a taste of her own medicine. We see a quick cut of the trauma the witch inflicted, showing a victim completely broken by the experience. The hero looms over her, promising that she's going to get the full, uncut version of that hell now. Purple magic starts crawling over her face as her mind gets hijacked, putting her in a forced loop. She's promised an eternity of this garbage, and she's going to enjoy every single second of it. Suddenly she's back in her own head, touching her face and wondering how she got so disoriented. She wakes up in some high-tech lab, totally confused about how she went from fighting to being locked up. She's trapped in a glowing blue tank with her wrists chained, and she's starting to freak out. A wide shot shows her pathetic situation, isolated and restrained in this sterile, futuristic prison. She's losing her composure, banging on the glass and screaming for someone to let her out. The witch is thrashing like a fish out of water, demanding her treasure while kicking the walls. She's desperate, trying to cast Thunderbolt while hanging from her chains, but nothing is happening. She just hangs there, completely baffled that her spells are ghosting her. She starts speedrunning her spell list, shouting everything from Meteor Ball to Water Cutter in a panic. She's screaming Wind Blade and Ice Needle, her face contorted into a desperate, pathetic mess. It's all a bust, she's just suspended there, powerless in the cold glow of the lab. Close up on her face, finally realizing the nightmare, her magic is completely stripped away. She's screaming at the guy behind the console, demanding to be let out of this blue-lit cage. Her eyes go wide, realizing that the guy is about to do something truly terrifying to her. The guy does not even blink, just focused on the terminal while she loses her mind in the background. She's screaming for his attention, but he's ghosting her, completely locked in on the console. Her panic hits a new high as she watches his hands move across the keyboard, helpless to stop him. She's sweating bullets, just begging him to wait, but the guy is cold as steel. He hits the red button and she's screaming, "Do not," like she's in a horror movie slasher. The machine surges with energy and she's arching her back in total agony as it activates. She's screaming her head off as the red light consumes her, completely overwhelmed by the pain. The pain is looped on screen, a constant, brutal reminder of what she's being put through. Blood is running down her chin and she's basically catatonic from the sheer intensity of the torture. The chains are pulling tight and she's just weakly begging for someone to make it stop. Her eyes are hollow, reflecting the trauma of what she's endured in this endless cycle. She snaps back to reality, gasping for air, wondering if it was just a nightmare, but the pain is too real. She realizes she's right back where she started, chained in the glass chamber with him staring her down. She's completely broken now, begging him for mercy like a dog pleading for a treat. She's willing to do literally anything if he'll just end this, but he's not budging. He just points at the console, totally emotionless, and she knows what's coming next. She watches the tally counter tick up, realizing this has happened way more times than she thought. A loud clank sounds as the counter hits 1, and she's left wondering what the total even counts. She's hanging in her rags, realizing the horrifying math of how many times she's been put through the ringer. She tries to scream her way out, but it's like shouting into the void. The desperation is real, her voice cracking as she begs for an exit that does not exist. The silence of the chamber is only broken by the sound of her frantic, shallow breathing. She's gasping for air, trying to keep it together, but her spirit is clearly snapping. She sees the tally numbers and realizes she's endured thousands of these cycles, just suffering. She convinces herself that if she just hangs on, she'll finally get to leave this hell. She's already plotting her revenge, thinking about how she'll deal with the siblings once she's out. A flash of blue light signals yet another reset in this twisted program. The counter resets, showing she's back at square one while the total stays stuck at thousands. Her brain short-circuits as she stares at the reset counter, unable to process the cruelty. She's just speechless, blood dripping as she lets out a hollow, defeated huh. The realization hits that it was never going to end and she's spiraling into pure madness. A finger hits the red button again and she's just left screaming the word "why" into the abyss. She's repeating it over and over, completely shattered by the realization of her eternal punishment. The guy is watching the tank, letting out a scream of his own, maybe reaching his limit too. We shift back to the shore where the heroes are standing over a small, slumped figure. The guy is looking down, totally shocked by what he's seeing in the aftermath. The witch is not a young beauty anymore, just a decrepit skeletal mess in the dirt. It's the final close-up of her true form, a hollow, dying husk of a person. The hero figures out she was just using magic to cosplay as a younger version of herself. He guesses she's over 150 years old and the girl confirms the grim reality. Flashback reveals she was a parasite, feeding on their blood just to keep her skin looking smooth. She was basically a stalker, obsessed with them because they were the key to her fountain of youth. The old hag is twitching on the ground, clinging to the last bit of her miserable life. She's trying to choke out a final sentence, but the words are barely coming out. The girl is amazed that even after all that, the witch is still holding on to her vanity. She just shakes her head, totally done with the witch's pathetic, lifelong obsession. They discuss what to do, but the hero realizes death is coming for her anyway. He decides there's no point in wasting energy to kill her, so he just starts walking away. The girl watches him go, looking a bit startled by his cold, calculated decision. She spots something shiny on the beach and goes to check it out. She kneels down, wondering what kind of trash the witch left behind this time. It's a locket, and she realizes the witch was ruining families to keep her little game going. She's praying for the victims, feeling the weight of all the lives the witch destroyed. She looks at the hero, determined to put an end to this whole messy cycle of misery. The witch is dying alone by the water, losing track of time as the end finally arrives. She's just waiting for the lights to go out, drifting away into her final deserved rest. The hero shows up again, finding her at the very end of her rope. She begs him for a quick death, terrified of aging any further before she kicks the bucket. The withered witch rots by the water, smoke curling off her body like a dying campfire. A smug kid looms over her, looking down at the decay like he's watching a bug. He floats there, braid dangling, and flat out refuses to grant her final wish for death. With a sneer, he tells the old hag to rot away alone before ditching her completely. Elsewhere, a traveler stops on the shore, staring at the horizon like he's found a lid. Back to our guy, glowing in blue energy, dead set on hunting his target down today. A man and woman pause their trek to camp in a dark, quiet forest clearing. Their small fire flickers, casting long shadows against the trees and scattered stones nearby. They huddle by the flames, looking exhausted after everything they have been through lately. They share a quiet moment, acknowledging they finally made it this far into the woods. He thinks back on their leveling grind and how they survived every single crazy encounter. Still, he's haunted by the innocence they stepped over just to fuel their path forward. He grips something tight, muttering that their long, painful mission is finally nearing its end. Then there is the target, Kira Haruto, standing there draped in dark purple magical energy. He is burning with pure, unadulterated rage, ready to end this whole vendetta for good. He refocuses on the woman, telling her they need to rest before their next move. Suddenly, his eyes widen in shock, glowing bright as something goes completely sideways. He lunges for her, screaming for her to run as a massive threat emerges. A blinding blue beam of energy cuts through the forest like a literal holy strike. They get yeeted through the air, caught in the middle of a massive magical explosion. An antagonist steps out of the fog, spotting them huddled near some old tree stumps. It is a silver-haired guy in blue, looking like he walks straight out of a sword-fighting anime. He wears a cold, predatory grin, acting like he's just casually hunting down some prey. The sister wants to fight, but the brother knows they're totally outclassed right now. He's sweating bullets, desperately trying to get her to flee while they still have a chance. The swordsman mocks them, noting they are already drained from their last big boss fight. He lunges with insane speed, forcing the brother to scramble into a defensive stance. Their energies clash, red against blue, and the swordsman greets him like an old, annoying acquaintance. They're locked in a power struggle, and the brother admits this guy is his least favorite person. The swordsman laughs, clearly enjoying the history between them while he looms over the clearing. He decides he is bored of playing around and shifts into a much darker mood. He pulls out a cursed-looking purple blade, flat out stating he's going to delete the sister. She's frozen in terror, watching the red energy flare up as the situation goes south. The brother is hit with a wave of pure dread, seeing his worst nightmare unfolding. The swordsman is still fuming about her escaping before and reveals his new twisted goal. He's going to erase her from existence just because she's a nuisance to his plans. The brother can't believe he's being targeted for such a petty, murderous reason as that. The guy's face goes full psycho, confirming he is 100% committed to the kill. The ground craters as the swordsman makes his move with terrifying, overwhelming force. Desperate, the brother lunges forward, blurring with speed to get between them and save her. He lands a hit, his fist glowing red against the purple blade in a huge flash. A mysterious, dark-haired woman joins the chaos, leaving the swordsman standing between them both now. He pins the brother down, blade at his throat, completely controlling the flow of battle. He just smirks at the resistance, clearly viewing this life-or-death struggle as a total game. But then a hit lands and they realize they finally found a way to hurt him. The woman charges in, unleashing a dark red binding technique to trap the guy down. Blades clash in a blur of red and purple light while the swordsman stays unbothered. He leaps to a branch with grace, treating their desperate assault like a minor annoyance. He casually deflects a massive punch, complaining that the whole thing is just troublesome now. He starts casting a complex purple magic circle, preparing a counterspell to end them. He looks down with that mocking smile, saying they are both just as annoying as ever. The attackers are drenched in sweat, realizing in horror that the tide has completely turned. A tendril of dark energy snags the brother's arm, ripping it clean off in one go. The limb hangs in the air, spraying blood everywhere as the reality of it hits. He's scrambling to use regeneration magic, but he is clearly losing the fight for survival. He stands in the dark, staring at the stump, the weight of his vulnerability sinking in. He collapses, screaming as he realizes his body is failing and his blood is draining. Trembling in the dark, he can't even move anymore, completely overwhelmed by the trauma. The woman rushes to him, terrified, calling out for her brother as he bleeds out. The horror on her face is total as she finally sees the extent of the damage. Kira strikes again, sending someone flying through the air with a single violent motion. He stands there waiting, a dark portal of energy swirling beneath his feet like hellfire. He eyes the severed hand, gloating that his new cursed blade is way better than his toys. The brother is on his knees, screaming in pure raw rage at his tormentor. Kira stares at his multi-eyed purple sword with a look of twisted, sadistic satisfaction. He leaps into the air, the dark energy around his blade crackling like a storm. He's grinning like a maniac, ready to put them both down with one final strike. The energy flashes, a mix of purple and red cutting through the forest air. A massive purple slash hangs in the air, signaling the end for someone here. The brother kneels in a spray of blood, his face frozen in total, absolute shock. The sister is impaled through the chest as she jumps in to shield him. They fall together, blood-soaked and limp as the life drains out of the scene. They hit the ground under the blue forest light, the finality of it all setting in. He screams her name, begging her not to talk while she whispers her final words. He's desperate, promising he can fix this even though it's clearly way too late now. Their hands lock together, fingers stained deep red, holding on until the very end. He sits there in the moonlight, cradling her body as the world goes dead quiet. He breaks down, sobbing and screaming at her not to talk about the end. She looks up, face covered in blood, and gives him one last, calm smile. Kira swings his blade through the air as she tries to finish saying she loves him. A close-up of an eye reflecting a decapitated head splattered with gore and pure horror. Kira stands over the body, annoyed that their emotional family moment interrupted his fun. The brother is staring at the head, his mind breaking as he gasps in shock. Kira gloats that he knew the sister would jump in to save him like that. He mocks the idea of family bonds, saying they were the perfect way to manipulate them. The brother is gasping, trying to breathe, his face a total mask of trauma. The severed head sits in a pool of blood while his panicked breathing fills the air. Suddenly, the scene shifts and he hears his sister calling out his name again. He's sitting in a bright room and she's there in an apron, asking if he's okay. She's holding a ladle in the kitchen, looking worriedly at him like nothing ever happened. He rubs his head, acting totally disoriented, saying he just zoned out for a second. She complains that his food is getting cold and sets down a bowl of rice. He smiles and grabs his chopsticks, thanking her for the meal like a normal day. A sunny day out, the sister hanging laundry on the balcony under a clear sky. She shakes out a white cloth, cheerful and saying it's going to be a good day. He's at the sink and she tells him it is time for them to head out. They walk down the stairs together, surrounded by trees, looking like a totally normal duo. He mentions someone wants to invite her to the aquarium and gets lost in thought. She asks if he hates aquariums and he says that isn't the issue at all. She keeps walking, saying they just haven't gone out together enough lately and that's it. Makoto heads out, telling his sister he has a part-time job to support their mom. Minori feels bad about their previous conversation, but he brushes it off for next time. He pauses, blushing, and finally suggests they hit up the aquarium together. She's clearly thrilled, locking in the promise with a massive, happy smile. As they walk, a mysterious guy in a white uniform blocks their path. They've never seen this stranger in the village and get a weird vibe immediately. The dude just smiles, creepily asking if they are indeed the Kuryu siblings. Caught off guard, they stammer out a confirmation. He spreads his arms, acting like he's finally completed a long, twisted scavenger hunt. His face turns genuinely menacing, clearly having waited a long time for this moment. Minori is visibly shaking, wondering why this guy is hunting them down. He pulls out a glowing blue weapon and his grin just gets wider. Moving like something out of an action movie, he strikes, aiming for their bodies. The blade connects instantly, slicing through Makoto in a brutal spray of blood. Minori gets caught in the splash damage, completely stunned by the sudden attack. She's covered in gore, frantically calling out to her brother as reality sets in. They're both left broken on the stairs while the stranger just stands there, chilling. Makoto starts twitching, his body flaying open as a weird ethereal mist surrounds him. He's coughing up blood, clearly in agony from whatever is happening to his frame. Minori watches in pure horror, unable to process her brother's gruesome transformation. The attacker looks on, totally amazed at what he's witnessing. He closes in, shocked that the guy he just shredded is actually regenerating. He touches his face with a manic grin, realizing his intel was spot on. Minori is screaming for her brother, terrified by the state he's in. The guy drops into a low, predatory stance, ready to go for round two. He moves with insane speed, leaving red motion streaks across the forest. Another brutal hit lands, sending blood flying everywhere. The attacker looks absolutely gleeful, loving every second of this violence. He basks in a golden glow, feeling like his mission is finally paying off. He towers over them, realizing he's dealing with an infinite respawn glitch. He's genuinely surprised that a monster like this actually exists. A caption drops the lore: the brother is a descendant of the immortal. Minori is just desperate, asking what that even means in this hellish situation. The guy slashes again, taking Makoto's arm clean off. He tells them it doesn't matter what they are because they're now his food. Makoto is left bleeding out while the guy claims his prize. Minori screams, trying to shield herself from the relentless assault. A massive crimson energy slash tears through the air, hitting Makoto again. The blade swings and Makoto's head goes flying through the air. Minori's eyes are wide, reflecting total absolute despair. She lets out a silent, soul-crushing scream as the blood rains down. The guy stands there, dragging the bodies and feeling out his new, gory power. He grins like a psychopath, ready to use this body for whatever he wants. Minori lies in a massive pool of blood under an eerie blue light. A close-up of her tear-filled eyes shows just how helpless she feels. A flashback hits, showing her looking happy and affectionate. Another memory shows her pouting, looking totally childish and annoyed. She's shown praying, looking solemn and vulnerable. One final shot shows her radiant and content, a stark contrast to the massacre. Back in the present, a fist drives forward with a violent burst of energy. A silhouette screams in agony, engulfed in red lightning and dark energy. She leaps through the dark, her movement creating a sharp, glowing streak. She stops, hit with the sudden realization of a new, terrifying threat. A horned monster emerges from the shadows, eyes glowing a menacing red. She faces off against this towering entity in the ruins. She's shaking, completely terrified by the sudden shift in the fight. She's staring at the monster, wondering what kind of form that even is. The creature looks back, its eye reflecting her tiny, helpless form. She tries to block a massive red shockwave with her weapon. The force sends her flying, the sheer magical pressure unlike anything she's felt. A pillar of red energy erupts and a small silhouette stands at the top. The demonic entity looms over the bloodied, motionless woman. It reaches out, its hand glowing with a soft, golden light. A clock mechanism appears and the entity starts manipulating the magic. The golden light bathes the woman, turning the gears of time. The creature looks focused, putting real effort into the revival spell. She starts to hover, the golden aura beginning to work its magic. The silver-haired attacker watches from the trees, totally baffled that she isn't dead. He's questioning the skill and the weird transformation he just witnessed. His eyes widen, he realizes the creature just underwent a species evolution. The monster stands ready, wreathed in red energy and looking non-human. The attacker knows this is a massive, unforeseen complication. He decides to ignore the girl and shift his target back to the brother. He leaps into the air, blades drawn, aiming to take Makoto out. He descends on the creature, determined to finish the job. A purple-bladed strike cuts through the air toward the battlefield. He lands in a classic combat pose, fully committed to the kill. His eyes glow purple, focused entirely on his target. He watches as the creature retreats, carrying the woman away. The monster stands over her, power radiating, prepared for the next wave. The attacker smirks, telling his opponent they've finally learned how to fight. The horned entity recoils, realizing the tables have suddenly turned. They clash in a high-speed exchange of steel and claw. The entity lunges, trailing red energy as it drops from the air. The attacker counters with a glowing strike, leaving light streaks behind. The creature lands, surrounded by an intense, dangerous aura. A close-up shows the monster rattled, looking vulnerable for the first time. It screams at the warrior, saying it killed him thousands of times to level up. The warrior is furious, asking if the death of a sister is really what triggered this. He's trembling, realizing the sheer intensity of the monster's state. The monster roars, a vortex of blood-red energy consuming everything. The warrior stands his ground, looking cold and ready to end this. They slam into each other, creating a massive explosion of power. As the red light blows up, a desperate cry echoes through the woods. Weapons lock and they're face-to-face in a brutal stalemate. Red energy slashes everywhere as the warrior parries every clawed strike. The monster's strength pushes him back and he takes a heavy hit. He's knocked to the ground, panting while the creature looms over him. Blood drips from his mouth as he struggles to get back up. The monster notes he's the first one to ever deal this much damage. Our guy is holding that massive sword, purple energy leaking everywhere, and he warns himself not to get cocky. The horned antagonist just laughs at him, basically saying a descendant of the immortal stands no chance. A quick zoom on his eye shows he's locked in, pure focus mode activated. The demon looks like a nightmare, draped in robes and a glowing red aura of pure hate. A bloody streak on the demon's face makes him look even more like a predator. They start trading blows so fast it looks like a blur of energy streaks on screen. The demon goes airborne with a red orb while the hero plays defense with his blade. He pulls a classic move, manifesting a barrier of swords to block the incoming red energy. He launches himself into the air, purple energy surging, ready to crush the demon below. Another close-up on his eye, now glowing with that piercing, ethereal violet light. It's total chaos now, just purple streaks colliding as they smash into each other. The demon takes a direct hit, wrapped in jagged dark energy while trying to hold his ground. He coughs up blood, but the hero knows he hasn't finished the job yet. Eyes burning with rage, he vows to kill the demon right here, right now. He drops from above, sword glowing blue, aiming to end the fight. The demon pulls out a golden clock-like seal, some weird magical defensive technique. The hero gets caught off guard by the sudden flash of golden magic. That golden light crackles with power, surrounding the demon like a shield. He lunges anyway, but the demon is already prepping a massive red vortex to intercept. The impact is brutal, sending the hero flying backward and gasping in pain. He's down on the ground, totally incapacitated and fighting to stay conscious. The demon looms over him, holding a cracked purple blade and looking like he's won. Broken and bleeding, the hero can't believe he's actually going to die here. He stares blankly, realizing that failing right now is just not an option. Nearby, a young girl starts waking up, completely oblivious to the carnage. She looks around the dark forest, totally lost and confused about where she is. The demon spots her and the tension shifts instantly as they lock eyes. He towers over her and she's just terrified, barely able to let out a gasp. Her eyes are wide with trauma, reflecting the nightmare unfolding in front of her. Suddenly, a massive angelic entity descends, glowing with moonlight and pure intimidation. Even the demon looks rattled, his smug expression replaced by confusion. The angel pulses with dark purple energy, making both of them look tiny. It's clearly targeting the demon, its legs wrapped in volatile dark magic. The girl is still confused, wondering how she did not get sliced by that sword earlier. She's trapped in the middle of this supernatural standoff, clueless about what is going on. The demon stares up at the entity, muttering in shock if it's his big brother. The angel shifts into a monstrous skeletal form, saying he never wanted to show this. Its eyes burn with a berserk intensity, ready to tear everything apart. It brandishes a massive skeletal weapon, threatening the undying tribe with the price of their lives. It dives down, wings creating a shockwave of purple energy that hits the demon hard. The clash is explosive, a blinding burst of red and purple energy lighting up the woods. The red-haired fighter takes a heavy hit, hissing as the purple distortion rocks him. A sharp blue visual effect sparks, changing the rhythm of the entire battle. The hero lunges again, screaming his lungs out as he drives his blade down. He's relentless, swinging that hooked sword with pure malice in his eyes. The blade connects and the opponent lets out a gut-wrenching scream of pain. The opponent transforms, fangs baring and red energy pulsing from his throat. He fires a point-blank crimson beam, pinning the hero down with raw force. That pillar of red energy shreds the sky, vaporizing everything in its path. The hero is caught in the beam, struggling to keep his defenses from shattering. He recovers just enough to try and parry the trailing crimson energy. Panic flashes in his eyes, but he forces himself to stay locked in. He counters with a massive purple energy slash, desperate to push back. Another white and blue explosion tears through the forest landscape. He lands a massive fist strike, slamming the opponent down into the dirt. The earth shatters under the weight of his glowing, descending fist. The opponent, fully embraced by red demonic aura, lunges back with claws out. They blur together, a final vicious exchange of speed and raw power. The opponent gets lucky, landing a brutal acrobatic strike that draws blood. He grabs the hero by the throat, grinning like a feral beast while the hero gasps. The skeletal-looking warrior delivers a swift strike, running his sword right through the back. The demon's head rolls off and the warrior stands there, blade glowing purple. He mocks the opponent, saying he let himself get cut just to win. With a sadistic grin, he tells the demon that's his specialty. He taunts him, claiming not even he can survive a neck slice like that. He lets out a chilling laugh, asking how it feels to finally die. A golden clock face manifests over the corpse and he starts laughing maniacally. Suddenly, his smile fades into total shock. That golden clock face erupts from the headless torso, crackling with intense energy. The body starts knitting itself back together, bathed in divine golden light. The warrior's blood runs cold, realizing that geometric pattern means trouble. The demon stands back up, neck fully restored, growling like a wild animal. The warrior can't believe his eyes, his dark aura flickering with fear. A glitchy, rapid-fire sequence shows the body regenerating in real time. His confidence is completely gone, his face pale as he realizes his mistake. The demon stands there and the warrior can only let out a grunt of disbelief. The demon starts laughing, mocking the warrior's failed trick. He bares his fangs, telling him there's no way he can pull that off again. He looks more monstrous than ever, claws ready and red eyes burning. The warrior grips his sword, forcing a jagged grin to hide his nerves. The air fills with heavy, sharp sound effects as they power up for the end. The warrior stands before a massive, swirling pillar of dark purple energy. He's got that feral grin, thinking about the technique that killed the Demon King. Black energy slashes everywhere, tearing through the red background. It's a brutal collision of black and white light, sparks flying in every direction. High-speed blurs of red and black energy tear up the battlefield. A massive eruption of purple and black consumes the frame. He screams at the monster to vanish into nothingness, pinning him under the blast. The target is helpless, pushed back by a violent, blood-red explosion. A vertical strike slices the scene into zones of pink and red light. He taunts the target, asking if that's really all he has left. The target is twisted in agony, blood leaking as the black energy crushes him. He lets out a final, inhuman shriek as the massive dark blade comes down. Red motion lines show the final, decisive strike hitting home. The warrior stands victorious while the girl watches from the background. He reaches out with a glowing hand, the tension still thick in the air. The girl screams for her big brother to win, caught in the swirling mist. He stands composed, radiating a dark red aura, ready for the resolution. He whispers a quick thank you to Minori before finishing the job. He stares down the enemy, asking how many times he has to kill them all. Our guy is locked in, radiating pure energy while declaring he is their ultimate end. The demons are not backing down, calling his absolute destiny a total joke. They are snarling, ready to keep reviving just to spite him and his plan. With a fierce shout, they swear they are going to rewrite their own fate. They combine their power into a massive, blinding red beam of pure destruction. That energy sphere is crackling, pulsing with enough force to level the whole area. The beam tears through the sky, lighting up the sunset like a giant red pillar. A few days later, the world is back to its normal, peaceful routine. News reports are flooding the screens, exposing the messy truth behind the recent drama. The public is losing it online, rightfully disgusted by all the crimes finally coming out. Everyone is dragging their former classmate for being a total nutcase from the start. The rumors are flying, from casual murder to people being way older than they look. Even the biology checks out, confirming the guy was not even fully human after all. Despite the reveal, the drive for revenge is still lingering in the shadows. People are still missing and the cops have no idea where they actually went. Out in the middle of nowhere, the duo is finally catching some fresh air. They take a moment to look at the sky and wonder what comes next. He mentions he actually has one specific place he wants to visit together. He gives her a rare, genuine smile and suggests they hit up the aquarium. She is totally caught off guard by the suggestion, left completely speechless. It is a quiet, heavy moment as he reflects on everything they have endured. She looks back, peaceful and happy, finally letting the past fade away a bit. Tears are streaming down her face, but she is finally on the same page. With a tearful, hopeful smile, she tells him it is time to get going. They hold hands, agreeing that with all the time in the world, they are fine. It is a brutal reminder that fate has tried to crush them before, but fighting through the hellish dungeon paid off and they came out on top. Standing there in the light, they are finally ready to start their new chapter.